I'm Jay. This is my
I'm Cole.
neighborhood.
Nice.
Here, as always, with Cole. Cole is a typical teenager. Angry, insecure, confused. He used to be happy. We used to be happy. And this is the movie discussion pocket dimension, where time does not exist and the only thing that matters is film.
All right, what's up? I didn't know he was going to do that. I didn't mean to jump in and ruin it. It was good.
I did it.
I used to be happy, and then this happened.
This is American Beauty, obviously from '99. Everybody knows this movie. And this is one that I've had on the top of the list since we started this show because Cole hates it. And I really want to hear from him about his thoughts, but we'll get into it. So how have you been, man?
Well, I'm all right. It's a hectic couple days getting back here as always. And today I had an early start because I had an appointment with the eye doctor. And nothing too bad or anything, but I had to have my contacts out for a while. And then basically come right back, like where the eye doctor is actually right out by the mall. But there wasn't anything to do. So I had to leave, come home, and then go right back out to where I was to go to the mall. We're having wind and rain storms. It's insanely warm here. Big warm front came up, all this wind and rain. It was really rainy in the early morning. We were like, oh yeah, it's going to be bad. It's flooding and stuff. And it really eased off through the day. I was like, well, okay. But it turns out that's just like a delay. Like more rain is still coming, like later tonight and into tomorrow. So the flooding and shit could still happen. So it's going to be a ton of rain. And then Thursday, it's going to drop off. By Friday, we might even get some snow. It's kind of too bad because that's the day my sister is driving in from New Brunswick. So I don't know how that will go. But just a bit hectic the last couple of days. So they're always landing here. But I mean, I don't mean to complain because a lot of it's just normal Christmas stuff that everybody does. I know. But I don't know. The last few years, as my parents get up there, I become more relied on. Like, I put up the tree, I put the lights on the tree, I decorated the tree. So I do that entirely on my own now. Stuff like that. At least we don't put up the one down here anymore. There used to be 2 trees, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah.
Down here is a goddamn nightmare. My mother turned it into a sewing area, and this place looks like a bomb hit it. I brought the Switch home to hook up to this basement TV, but it's going to be really a lot to move stuff around. Like the camera, I've angled it so you cannot see the level of chaos that is this rec room, which is where I spent most of my childhood. Whenever Jay and I reminisced about growing up and movies and video games and stuff, this was where it all happened for me, except for the stuff, of course, at Ryan's house.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I would stay down late at night on the internet or on TV, doing things not appropriate for someone my age. And this is where I played all the games on a really uncomfortable high wooden chair.
Yeah, of course.
This is a nice chair, but it wasn't close enough to the TV. We didn't have big TVs you could.
Right.
Back in the day, you got to be close. So,
it had to be right up on top of it sometimes.
Yeah, so nothing Christmassy here.
It would have been different if we had the large televisions and we were younger, because I don't know.
It would have saved some of our visions because so many of us wouldn't have sat so close, I think. Probably. Remember all that stuff, not to go off on one of our old guy rants and stuff, but remember stuff your parents would tell you. I remember one of the things was back then when you had games and you couldn't save them, right? I would pause it, leave it on.
Oh yeah.
The TV off. And your parents would be like, that'll burn the image into this TV screen. I have no idea if there's any goddamn truth to that. But somehow every parent caught wind of this, despite knowing nothing about video games. And went around. You couldn't leave a game on pause for long. You went the TV off because that was bad for the TV in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe I never saw it on a television. I saw it on computer monitors a lot, but never.
It could happen on computer monitors, huh? Yeah.
It would, back in the, not even color monitor days. It was just just charts and stuff that would just, people worked on them all day long. So it would just be the same image on the screen. You could turn off the monitor, you could still see it.
Plus, if you're trying to hide from your parents that you're watching TV at all, TV's just after effect. I remember that's one of John Mulaney's bits where he talked about he's supposed to be doing homework and he's watching TV instead. And he turns the TV off and his dad comes. He's like, "Were you watching TV?" He's like, "No, man, I wasn't watching TV." He's like, the TV is still all staticky.
Yeah.
And we all know what it's like when you turn the tube TV off. It's giving off all this static, and the screen looks different for a few seconds. It's like I'm lying to him saying, "Oh no, the TV's been off," but it's weird.
Well, they got warm too. I mean, those suckers put off a lot of. I mean, they took a lot of energy too.
Yeah, a really dedicated parent could just touch the screen and be like, "It's been on recently." So.
Hear that sound when you touch the screen?
Yeah, he said something like it was like making sounds like like a bottle of Pepsi or something.
Mm-hmm.
The carbonation, and yeah, I mean we've all of a certain age felt that. But yeah, it's easier to be a sneaky kid now too, because now you watch it on your
American
phone,
Beauty.
Put it under your covers.
I mean, obviously it was huge. I think a lot of the pushback for this movie. I mean, I think it's a decent movie. I'm not going to say it's great or anything. I think it's very watchable. I think it's easy to put on and watch. Which I can't say that about a lot of stuff, but it won a lot of awards, right? It won 4 or 5 Oscars that year.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think only one other movie has won more. But
oh wow, yeah. But yeah, that's impressive. Where my pushback comes from. My pushback, if it just came and went, fine. But my pushback came from the fact that it was so revered in its day. It had this massive effect on pop culture. It's like so many movies either copied it or homaged it or just parodied it.
Yeah.
You couldn't watch something like Family Guy or something without a bunch of American Beauty jokes or references thrown in. All sorts of shows would do it. And to me, it just wasn't worth the attention. I never thought it was worth the attention. So I can't sum up the hatred I had for this movie 9 years ago when Jay first heard me utter it on some ancient episode of The Sausage Factory, where I was like, I hate, where somebody brought it up. I don't know what the context was. And I was like, I hate that movie. I can't hate it the way I used to because it has faded. I mean, people still remember it and people still like it, but early 21st century, it was a tone setting type of movie.
But if it wasn't so successful and so in your face all the time, I mean, would you hate it as much?
No, and that's why it's faded now, because it's not that now. So now I still don't like it, and I did not enjoy watching it again at all. But no, I can't have the same hate because it has faded over time. It's not like it's been forgotten. People still remember it, but it's not the same. But like I said, for at least the first decade after that movie, it just had this massive effect on pop culture and everybody. And it was one of those movies, like I said, if you look at the Wikipedia article, there's various things about people debating how to interpret it, because to me, I don't like considering. I don't know. I just don't think it's a very deep movie, and it seems to have a reputation as a deep, meaningful movie.
It's not.
To me, I don't think it is.
I don't think there's really anything hidden in there. I mean, the only thing at the ending they kind of keep ambiguous for a beat, so you don't you don't know exactly what happens. We're gonna spoil this if you haven't seen this movie. So it's going to be full.
I don't even I never liked the style either. Like that music you played at the beginning that everybody knows. I don't like that. I find everything's really in your face. I don't like the narration. I find it clunky and badly written. I don't know. We'll get into it.
But I mean, it's a black comedy, dark comedy, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And I love that. I love stuff like that takes humor out of situations that otherwise would not be humorous. And, hopefully we can get on to, some more of those at some point on the channel, but,
maybe some that I actually find funny.
Yeah.
I don't find anything funny in this movie. I can't think of a joke that lands for me.
But it was so much in your face, and I remember that. I mean, I saw it really before it had all the the Oscar buzz and stuff. So I was aware of it, and I don't know. I think it doesn't get a fair shake as a movie in general, just because of that. I think because Jacob commented, this movie, when we first started. So, sure,
I think we're of the same mind there, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but it. Yeah. Oh well. I think it's decent. But we can get there. But watching this in 2023, still, I was going to say 24, with my Kevin Spacey goggles on, it kind of hits a little different for me.
whatever about Kevin Spacey personally out of like Kevin Spacey's like body of work. I mostly enjoy it, and like ironically, like the movies he's like kind of most famous for, I don't like. I don't like this. I don't like him in Usual Suspects. I just think the Usual Suspects is ridiculously overrated, and I think his role in it is ridiculously stupid. So, and those are like the two movies that people sort of think of when they think of Kevin Spacey. Like, how come nobody remembers, I don't know, like L.A. Confidential anymore? That was a movie that was massive at the time and then completely disappeared.
Forgotten about.
Like that movie was a big darling, had all like the A-list. It was sort of a coming out party for, right, the star-making role for him, put him on the map. And it won awards and it was talked about, but did it have the same lasting impact as, like, say, this movie? Not at all. Vanished. I'm thinking Kevin Spacey was good in that, and I actually felt bad when his character dies in that. Like, even though his character's kind of a jerk in a way, I found him likable. I don't find him likable in this, although I don't find him like reprehensible or bad. Like some people who criticize this movie, they're like really laying to Kevin Spacey's character, like he's some sort of bad guy. Like I'm not of that, view. I don't see that. I don't. Like in some ways, I can, even though I don't like how it's written, I can empathize with him and things like that. But I mean. 1999 was a big year and a weird time for these sorts of movies. Because when you think about some of the themes and messages of some movies that are driven hard, like they showed up in a lot of movies around the same time. Like if you want to talk about like sort of dissatisfaction with like a white collar life, dissatisfaction with like consumerism and sort of, I don't know, like the end of 20th century America and where people's of a certain age, what their place in society was, where it stood, and bucking against that. Like that was like all over the place. Like even in extreme examples, like you have like Fincher doing Fight Club, where a lot of the stuff that like Brad Pitt and Ed Norton spout in that movie are similar to this movie. It's like bucking against this system. It's like, oh, they're telling us males of a certain age how we're supposed to fit in society and what sort of role we're supposed to play and how we're supposed to be and how we should just reject all this stuff. Like they say a line that's very similar in this movie where he's yelling at his wife about how like a couch is just a couch and this stuff doesn't mean anything. It's very similar to what's going on in part of Fight Club. Same year as Office Space, which again is about sort of railing against the dehumanizing experience of being sort of like a worker bee, a cog in a machine in an office. Even The Matrix in all of its weirdness starts out that way, right? Because Neo is just another guy doing a mindless job and it all sucks and he's a drone. And then he finds out like that's like literal because the whole world is fake and he breaks out of it, becomes the hero of it. So that was all over the goddamn place in the space of a few years in some vastly, on the surface, maybe different movies, but a lot of them push that kind of message, that idea that like, especially like maybe males of a certain age are like conditioned by society to seek these goals and, assign value to this and that, you have somebody bucking against it. And that happens here as Lester, another pet peeve of mine. It's not a real criticism of the movie because every movie, actors play fictional characters with names. It's easier if an actor has a ridiculous name. Because if you're Sylvester Stallone, when Sylvester Stallone plays like John Spartan, John Rambo, you're like, yeah, John. Because that's more believable than his actual name. It's more believable. But when you have somebody, I have to say, this is not a criticism because it's just completely perfect. Any of the actors in this movie fit their names. None of them look like their names to me. I know that's a pretty silly thing to care about. But I mean, Carolyn maybe, but his name is Lester. I reject that. Thora Birch is Jane. No. Mina Sarvari is Angela. No. Right. Wes Bentley as a Ricky might be the worst one. Does he ever not look like a Ricky? But anyway.
You mean the character names don't match the actor playing?
Yeah, and I know that's just completely random and it doesn't really matter. But I mean, usually I'm just you're used to it. You see actors, they play movies, they have names, you accept them and you move on. I can't even do that with this movie. I'm like, Lester, his name is Lester. No, like I'm already against that. So that's that's not like a valid criticism. It's just something that I can't help. I don't characters, especially Ricky. He's not a Ricky. Not even Rick. I don't know. But again,
what's the surname? Lester, like Bunham or something like that. Whatever his name is
Barnum.
It's an anagram for the guy's name in Lolita. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Burnham. Like Bo Burnham.
Oh,
They are
like
the
Bourbon.
Burnham family.
Gotcha.
They're the Burnham family.
Okay, for this year, Best Picture was this that won: Cider House Rules, The Green Mile, The Insider, and The Sixth Sense.
I mean, I don't think any of those are that great. My favorite of those is probably The Green Mile, and
Yeah,
I don't
me
think
too.
Green Mile, and I don't think The Green Mile is amazing or anything either. So
I think The Cider House Rules sucks. So
yeah,
suck
I don't
on that.
remember it. Like I
Suck
watched
on
it
that.
back in the day, and I just don't remember it. Like I don't really even have an opinion because I can't remember anything.
Very
Tobey
forgettable.
Maguire's in it. That's about all I remember. That's all I know. It left no impression. I only watched it the one time back in the early 2000s. But not to get on the technology and old TV shit again, but Jay also knows this movie, American Beauty, is the first movie I ever watched on a computer, which was the thing. Like, I'd watched things on a computer before because, like, as early as, like, 98, I know I was going online and I would go to, like, anime sites and I was watching anime shows. But the first time somebody took, like, a DVD and popped it into a computer and we watched it was my first year ever, my first week of college, before college actually started. So this is the week before September 11th, 2001.
Wow.
The world changed. And I was in the dorm I lived in. I was in a dorm neighbor's room with a few other people to watch this movie, which is itself a new enough thing in 2001. Watched it on the computer because he didn't have a TV yet or anything, but that was okay because he had a computer with a DVD disc drive. My computer didn't have a DVD disc drive. That's one of the reasons why it was a big deal to get the PS2, because the PS2 could also play DVDs, and I got the PS2 within a few months of that. But so that's something I remember. I just remember sitting on a bed in a small dorm room with about 4 or 5 people that they were all new, all people I'd only just met, didn't know them or anything like that. I think I told you before, there was an American that was there my first 2 years, and he was younger than the rest of us. He was only 17, and he was from New Hampshire, and he was kind of fat, and he had red hair, and he was loud, and he reminds me a little of Ork, but he was different from Ork. He came from a rich family. Had lots of stuff. But anyway, I remember this is one of the first times I'd met him, and he had already seen the movie, and he was spoiling some of us that it went. And for whatever reason, he was like really critical of Thora Birch's breasts. Like, you get a scene where she takes her shirt off, you see for a second, and he's just like like that. I'm like, oh, come on, not that bad. I mean, maybe not amazing, but I
think they're bad at all. I think they're great, and I think it's retarded for her to be looking at breast augmentation. That was the whole thing for her whole saving up money.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
breast,
for somebody
right?
who's that well endowed.
Yeah.
She wanted Majestic because one's bigger than the other a little bit. But I'm just thinking, you're like a fat 17-year-old virgin, and you're like talking about how her breasts aren't impressive to you. Anyway, he was one of the guys that lived in the Roost with me next year, so I got to know him a lot better than next year. Party trick. He had very elastic testicles. He could like pull one of his balls up. Nobody asked for this, of course. Also, speaking to the rich thing, like I remember sometime during that year he got a new computer, so he invited my friend and I over to join him in tossing his old one out, which we did. Don't worry, it wasn't as bad as it sounds. Like, we lived on the back side of the Roost, which meant our windows faced like this back alley part where nobody was. It was like an alley. Still, it's a pretty wasteful and stupid thing to do. It's a perfectly good computer, but this is what he chose to do with it, so we just took part in it.
Well, wait, go back to this testicle thing. What do you mean elastic testicles or elastic?
I mean, like elastic scrotum, I guess, because he could like pull like one up like above his shorts without like exposing the rest of him. He used to like have like a joke. He'd be like, "You ever see a hairy gumball?" or something like that. I don't know, something stupid. But yeah, all I can figure is like either he was like gifted that way, or he just like he like somehow tugged on his scrotum a lot to make it more stretchy. I don't know. I don't like thinking about it. It was not a pleasant thing, but I mean, it's a total college type of story to tell. This guy is partially exposing himself all the time. But I wish him well wherever he is with Old Red.
I used to know this guy who was wearing jeans one time, and he had a little hole in the crotch, and he pulled like small hole. He pulled his entire sack, not the balls, but the entire sack out, like, and it was just hanging out of his jeans. Look like
I mean, that's the type of thing he would have done. He might have even done the entire sack on occasion, and I luckily missed it. You know, I already saw too much. You know, too much. Wild college days, Jamie. I wish I could talk about all the awesome like chicks I slept with, but instead that's what I got. But choking on this, I don't even want to try and drink this every year. This is eggnog. I hate it.
Oh, you don't like eggnog? Okay, it's a very
No.
it's one of those love it or hate it drinks for sure.
I mean, on paper, it sounds like something I should like because it's like you like sweet drinks. I do, but I don't know. I feel like I like cracked open. I know eggs are not that sweet, but it's like Waker. I feel like I'm drinking a Cadbury egg. I guess that's what it is. But I don't have anything else down. I thought I'd make effort with what I'm drinking. Although you can partially see some of the nutcrackers. They're just there all year round. My nutcracker collection, which I'm sure I mentioned before, being down here.
Yeah, I think that's the
But
key, Jamie. You can't have a lot of that stuff.
yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna finish this glass, but yeah, we got off track because I was bringing up Red because Red critical of Thora Birch's topless. I was like, you're a little harsh, but whatever.
That's ridiculous. That's completely ludicrous.
I mean, my problem with Thora Birch, if I'm going to be a sexist jerk, is her gigantic forehead. Like, I can't find her attractive because she has a massive, massive, like shiny forehead that's very visible in the movie. It's like she should have bangs or something. But anyway.
Well, you know, she was actually underage. I think she was 17 when they shot that. They had to.
Yeah,
have,
they still get away with it here or there if certain conditions are met.
I think they got the parents' consent and had some other people on set for whatever purpose.
Whatever it is.
You know,
I mean, it's like
I guess making sure nothing bad happened.
It's like 2 seconds. It's like 2 seconds of screen time, so it's pretty fast. Jay knows I picked up the Blu-ray of pretty, and I always knew like, and I'd seen the movie before, but I guess forgotten like about the nudity, but like she has like multiple nude scenes. The 12-year-old, what's her name? God damn it. You know
what movie?
For Pretty Baby. You know, chick from
Is that Brooke Shields?
Brooke Shields, right? Yeah. So like, because like you can try to downplay her nude scene in like Pretty Baby, but like there's multiple ones. Like they make sure like so it's not like it's not like this movie where it's like 2 seconds and done. It's like no, she's walking around naked. You see her from the front, you see her from the back, and there's just one scene. There's multiple scenes. So I mean,
it's a bit much, yeah.
Much. 1978. Well, as I said, it's interesting. If you're trying, I guess it probably is true. If you wanted to make a movie that's revolves around the sexual exploitation of a child, to really get in there, you have to probably do a little child sex exploitation to make it work, I guess. And that's kind of the route they went. Yeah, I mean, it was a good parallel because she was, you know, I mean, child prostitutes obviously still existed in the 70s, but as far as like in a legal sense, Brooke Shields is kind of the closest thing to it. Like, cause she started modeling when she was like a goddamn baby, and you know, sexualizing music. But anyway, that's the whole other thing. Yeah, see, Jamie, I don't care about that at all. I don't.
But that's, I mean, that's
like
the purpose of the movie. I mean, he's given the opportunity and doesn't do it.
It's the honest. I feel like that's a cop out too, and I also feel like I actually do appreciate that honesty because a lot of movies like, oh, this would. So I'm like, yeah, that being obsessed with like a high school like teenager, like that happens all the time. Maybe it doesn't manifest its way, like it just stays in his head, but don't think he's not thinking it. Like at least the movie's being honest about it.
It's fucked up because I'm the age of Lester in the movie now. Yeah. So
as I said, I didn't really like his character. I just like people are on sides. Like I couldn't root for the guy because of that going on, but that I don't care. That doesn't affect me one way or the other. Like I said, I kind of appreciate the idea that, yeah, he goes to this cool event and she's her cheerleader. We can all smile and nod or shake our heads or whatever and pretend, oh, no, ending man would have any reaction to that. Just fucking bullshit, man. I mean, honestly, his obsession wouldn't even go anywhere if she wasn't like constantly indulging him in it, because she was like really like the attention, and he overheard her like blabbing to his daughter about how hot she thought he was and stuff like that. I mean, in most of these situations, it's like you see the girl from afar, or maybe you have those thoughts, but nothing comes of it because she's not in your goddamn house. But in this, she's constantly over his house and getting in his face. That's Mina Suvari, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, she's playing the Lolita character. I mean, and then when it comes down to it, it's all been an act,
Yeah. I guess we're supposed to take that at face value. Like, I guess we're just supposed to believe her. I guess I believe her. Because the whole thing is she acts like she's like this big slut, right? She's just like, oh, I fuck guys, and not even in relationships. I just, I go on and blah blah blah, and then at the end, when she's finally gonna do it, she's like, oh, I'm a virgin, by the way, in case you're wondering why I'm like not good, and I'm really nervous and scared. And then he does the right thing, and like I'm just like,
well, I mean, I was like, don't do it, don't do it. Even though I knew he wasn't going to do it, I was still chanting, don't do it. But,
I mean, I get that that's disturbing, Jamie, but as I said, I don't believe in policing people's thoughts, for Christ's sake. Thoughts. Jeez.
Right. Well, every time, she comes on, it starts playing that stupid music, and, the cameras change. I guess it's like a different type of lens or something they have on there to make it look more fantasy.
Yeah, the rose motif, I guess, really won people over. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't think there's anything that's exactly clever about either. I guess it's called beauty. Roses are a nice symbol of beauty, I guess.
Well, American Beauty is actually a type of rose that it looks pretty from the outside or beautiful, whatever, but it can have like rotting roots and
right. Which is a big part of the movie's message, of course, about like American life in suburbia, which you see in a lot of movies. Like, everything looks okay and shiny and good on the outside, but lurking beneath, there's a darkness and things like that. I get it. A lot of families are dysfunctional in some way or other. People hide secrets and things like that. I mean, even by '99, I felt like that was kind of played out. But I don't know. Again, some of it just comes down to personal taste. Because a few years later, Jay's heard me bring this one up before. They made a movie I think does all the same kind of stuff as this movie, and I realize it's probably, and like most people think of it as like trash, and that's The Quiet. They call it like trashy and exploitative, but I like it. Like, I get it. I don't think it's like amazing drama, but I think it does all the stuff that this movie tries to do better.
Quiet. I'm trying to think of who's in that. I've seen that.
I never remember her name. Canadian actress, blonde, married to Bian Phaneuf, was on 24.
Oh yeah. She was on there, and the Odette Usman, I believe, was the other girl.
Right, and the way they marketed that is weird too, because like I think they're like sisters or adopted sisters or something like that, and like they have like a bond. But the way like the poster makes it looks like they're gonna like be making out with each other or have some secret romance, but that doesn't happen at all.
Yeah, that's why
stuff happens in the movie, but not that. But anyway, I'm not defending that movie's great. It's I just feel like it does the same kind of stuff as American Beauty and does it more effectively. I don't know if that's Shawn Ashmore or Aaron Ashmore. One of the Ashmores.
Mm-hmm. They're twins, right?
Yeah. Shawn is the slightly better known one. He was the one who was in the X-Men movies, for instance.
Yeah.
Aaron never got much mainstream success, although I think that's him in the Terry Fox movie as Terry Fox, and he actually plays Terry Fox very well. If you're familiar with what that guy looked and sounded like, he really got that down quite well. But anyway, I haven't seen The Quiet in a long time, so I can't do a bunch of comparisons. I just remember that I actually enjoyed The Quiet. And again, I don't think it's great or clever. It's not. I just found it more satisfying and interesting to watch. And like I said, I feel like this movie is just so convinced of its cleverness and how deep it is. And if you want to talk about the character I really hate, it is Ricky. I hate him. I hate everything about him. Like, that's the character I hate. Like, I can at least be somewhat sympathetic towards Lester. I hate Ricky. I hate every decision he makes, every word that comes out of his mouth. I just want to hit him.
He gets beaten by his father for being gay, and he's not even gay though.
You would have beaten on him for something else.
You don't have sympathy for a character like that?
Not really.
Yeah.
I feel like he brings a lot. I feel bad for anybody living with an abusive parent, but a lot of the other stuff he brings on himself, I feel like the way he treats Thora Birch is much weirder and creepier, even though they're the same age. They're the same age, so it's totally fine, but I don't like the way he treats Thora Birch. I find it off-putting and weird and wrong, and yet she's like, oh, we'll be boyfriend, girlfriend now. I don't like it at all. At first, she is disturbed by it. She's like, stop fucking filming me. Or he's like, I'm just going to keep filming you and staring at you and saying that you're interesting. But, I don't know. I really hate him. I hate his smugness. I hate how easy it is for him. I hate people that it's just so easy for them to do anything they want. He's just like, yeah, I'm a rich drug dealer. I got all sorts of cool contacts. I make thousands and thousands of dollars. Hey, middle-aged guy that worked your whole life, you're a fucking chump. I'm a high school guy and I make way more money than you and I do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I hate this like cockiness.
I didn't interpret it that way at all.
I mean, and let's skip to the end. How about his reaction to Lester's death? It's not like, whoa, girlfriend whose father just died. He doesn't say like, whoa, don't come in here. He just, squats down and sort of smiles at him like a psychopath. It's like, oh, you're dead. You were my friend and you're my girlfriend's daughter. I mean, my girlfriend's father. She's going to be super upset. But I find this moment interesting because I'm a weird, quirky psychopath. Like,
but I mean, it plays with the rest of the movie, right? They portrayed him as a weird, quirky, not psychopath, but weird and quirky.
I mean, that's where he kind of turns into the psychopath because
he sees the beauty in everything.
I know. I see the beauty in this guy's in my father murdering my girlfriend's father. Now I get it. At that point, he doesn't know who killed him, but he knows he was killed. There's no gun there. He knows Lester didn't off himself. The guy took the gun with him. But yeah, I mean, I hated him the whole movie, and then you get to that point, and I'm like, wow, you're even worse than I thought you were. Like, so he's the character I absolutely hate. I hate every word of his mouth. I hate his pretentious bullshit. I hate how he thinks a bag blowing in the wind is amazing. It makes me want to puke.
I mean, I get that, but have you not met people like that?
Not to that degree. Like that idea, maybe, but not to that degree. And not mixed in with that weird, again, aloof cockiness. He's just like, it's cool, man. I smoke up and I pretend I work jobs and I get clean piss. And like
he's not like that, though. He's not like that.
What do you mean? He's exactly like that. He's all laid back.
He's not bragging about it.
Every scene with Lester is him like basically like sort of mocking Lester's crappy life and being like, I do whatever I want. You know, he's all laid back. Nothing bothers him. Everything's cool. Yeah, I really hate that character. The other characters.
Oh, don't worry. I know a guy. Oh, I've got connections. Don't worry. Yeah.
Everything. I can't stand him. And so I hate that. I wish that he had died, but that's another thing that I don't like jumping around. You knew you were going. This is what you wanted, Jay.
Oh, I'm loving it.
For 5 years, we didn't do this. You wanted it, so I can't help it. I'm not as structured as I usually am with movies. I can't help it. It's all bubbling back up. I don't think the movie should have even ended with a death. I feel like that undercuts it too. Like I like violent movies. Obviously, I watch lots of movies that have violence in them. Because a lot of them, it's not necessarily about the violence, it's just entertainment value. And then sometimes you have movies where violence is very poignant and shocking in some way, which is what they're trying here. But I don't know. I just feel like this movie would have been better if it didn't end with somebody being shot to death. I feel like that was unnecessary and crass almost. Like, I feel like that undercuts its own message. Like, oh, we don't know how to end this. We'll punctuate it with like a violent death. Like, I don't know.
Well, that's in the open narration.
I know he says he's going to die, and they try to fool you with a few things, right? Because the first thing you see is like that out of context scene of her like asking her boyfriend, like Ricky, maybe you should kill him, and then they, towards the end, of course, they think, oh, okay, the wife is going to kill him. You see the wife have to break down the car, getting the gun ready, and then of course you find out after the fact who really did it. Fine, whatever. I don't know. I just feel like you didn't necessarily have to have a death in that. Like, there is a death in the movie I brought up, but it fit because that movie, again, is kind of trashy anyway. I feel like if this movie was really trying to be so poignant and deep and meaningful, I feel like it undercuts its own message by having a violent, shocking death, a senseless death in it. because it was like, oh, how are we gonna get out of this? Well, it'd be really meaningful if like our narrator dies. Hey, how about this? Well, at the beginning, he'll say that he's gonna die. He'll tell us about, so we know the whole movie that death is hanging over him. I mean, that works sometimes. It doesn't for me.
I don't think it's unnecessary. I mean, it is what the movie is. I mean, the whole thing is based on, the script. It's pretty much word for word from the script, and I haven't read it, but Spielberg said it was great. So,
oh well, there you go. I don't know. I felt like it was sort of some mood whiplash to have that violent death. I feel like it could have had a better ending without anybody dying. But when you have a movie that's kind of bankrupt for meaning, they can shove some meaning in quickly by, the main character is dead, he's murdered. I mean,
who disagrees with you? The Academy.
Yeah,
the entire Academy.
We've disagreed about many a thing over the year when I cared to even bother to see what they were saying.
But yeah, so we basically start out with this family. I guess we can just do this quickly. Right. And they're all unhappy. They all basically hate each other. Husband and wife, not in a happy relationship at all. Daughter hates her parents, but that's pretty typical, I think.
Yeah, but girl distant, resents her parents.
And then we've got the father having his own, I guess, midlife crisis.
Sure.
I thought 40 was a little old. I did mine a little earlier than that because I didn't see myself living to 80. So, but and then the wife is having her own. She's obviously not happy, and she has her own little deal. But yeah. So from that point on, we get to see how these characters, unravel.
So. Well, the catalyst is that Ricky's family moves in next door, right? That kicks things off. I mean, still some other stuff still would have happened anyway because they were still going to go see the thing, and he was going to become infatuated with. I keep losing track of names.
Not Amber.
Angela.
Like Angela.
But I mean, that's still what happened.
Do you think it would have all happened the way it did if he didn't meet Ricky? Because he started smoking weed, and then he saw Ricky quit his job, so he quit his job.
I mean, Ricky really does drive the action for both him and the daughter. The daughter falls in love with him for no reason, and he thinks Ricky's awesome for no reason. Well, I mean, I see for certain, like he sees he has a certain freedom he doesn't have, but that's also pinned to just being young and not having the same responsibilities. Like he makes sort of a false equivalency there, but he's just like, I can recapture my youth. I'll quit my soulless job and just get a job at a burger place because that doesn't have responsibility and that's better. Which is funny because it's the flip, because a lot of us, when you're young and you're working those jobs, you're like, I'd rather have a better job with more responsibility. So I guess maybe no one's ever happy where they are in a given moment. I don't know. There's a lot to be said.
Yeah.
Like you said, and as far as movies go that talk about the family unit, I think this is one of the worst. By the 90s, I guess you would use the term traditional family. It used to be the nuclear family in the post-war years. Now, traditional family basically means wife, husband, kids, and they're all the same color. That's what a traditional family is.
Oh, really?
Anything different from that, I would say they would probably say is not traditional family, right? If it's two dads or two moms, or they adopt, I don't know, African refugees, those are not traditional families. The traditional family is, husband, wife, kids, same color, I think. And so what they're kind of saying in this movie is that those aren't that great. The only people who are actually happy in the movie, in the entire movie, are the unconventional gay couple. They're actually happy with they are in their life. They're friendly, and I don't think they're actually hiding any insecurities. I think they're mostly fine.
Which on that real quick, I noticed when I watched it for a second time that one of those guys is Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
And I looked up Scott Bakula. I was like, is he actually gay? Because he played a gay guy on Will and Grace too. And I was just curious if maybe he was just, by chance.
As far as I know, he's not. He's always had sort of an androgynous quality, especially if you go back and watch his 80s movies, and I think maybe that's why. So, I don't know. He's not somebody I think much about, but you're right.
Good actor, though. I mean, probably has 30 seconds of screen time. It's pretty much just when they're handing the gift basket, the welcome the welcoming gift, whatever you call that.
There's just really that, and then there's a couple of like jogging scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're jogging, he decides to take up running with him. But they're the only like content, well-adjusted characters in the movie. So again, I think the movie's being a little not too subtle, being like the screwed up families are the traditional ones. Those are the real screwed up families. And I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's not like it's not true to a certain extent. And again, I don't care. I'm not like it's an attack on traditions. I don't give a shit. But
I think there's a lot of truth to that, though, because I mean, a lot of people, it's all about what people see looking in, not how things actually are. It's how they are, perceived.
It's keeping up appearances, and they even talk. Yeah. Carolyn even talks about it a little with the guy she has the affair with, because he's talking about the idea of to project the image of success. You gotta make yourself like seem successful even if it's not. And that's why he's saying like even when he's like going through the divorce with his wife, he wants to try to keep that quiet because it would he's a businessman or whatever, and it would sort of reflect his business poorly that his marriage had broken down or whatever. Right. I mean, he's annoying, but he's supposed to be. That's the point. Like you're supposed to be annoyed by this guy. Because he's like a good foil for Lester, right? Like it's typical that this is who Carolyn chooses to have the affair with. Because Carolyn's, one of those. She's trying to be a career-oriented woman in like the softest possible field. I mean, I don't like to make fun of anybody's profession. Let's face it, like real estate is like it takes like no skills whatsoever. That's why so many like housewives that like maybe didn't do much work before that, or perhaps too much college are able to do it. It doesn't take much skills. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't take work. It shows the work she's trying to do. She's trying to show these houses, and she puts a lot of work into it. And she's being really intense about it. It's like, put your game face on. And then when she fails to sell the house at the end of the day, she's slapping herself and cursing at herself and doing all that kind of.
I thought that was a pretty great performance by Annette Bening.
Yeah, she is one of the characters that, like, I think is at least somewhat believable. The other characters, they skew too far and become unbelievable. I'd say she's in the realm of believability. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like stuff like what she's gone through happens in real life. I mean, she never does kill him. Maybe she thinks about it, but she probably wouldn't have. I get the sense that, even if she, if he hadn't been murdered by the neighbor, if she had come in with the gun, it seems very unlikely to me, based on what you saw about her character, that she actually would have shot him.
But what was even her intentions for killing him? She's the one that cheated. I mean,
she's the one that cheated, but the whole thing was she was saying, I will not be a victim, because it was kind of funny because she sort of convinced herself she was a victim. It was all like everything she did was because he drove her to it. It's, it's sort of what she's doing. She's playing the victim, right? Like, if the marriage broke down, it was his fault. If she decided to have an affair, it was his fault. He wasn't a good husband. He drove her to it. That seemed to really be what. And then when he did the whole thing where he starts to disconnect from his life, she's has a real problems with it. I'm not saying she shouldn't, but she's very disturbed when he's saying like, I quit my job. And she's like, what kind of example? He quit his job and now he's smoking pot. All this really disturbs her and upsets her. And he's not willing to engage with her on that. He's like, well, you know what? I've done what you told me for 20 years, whatever. Like, now I'm going to do what I want. She can't wrap her head around that. And she kind of goes over the edge from it. But yeah.
Yeah. So, him not being a lapdog makes her the victim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause you get the sense she was somewhat overbearing, and you hear about that a lot too. A lot of husbands that are kind of beaten down by their wives. Again, I don't want to sound like some sexist, like men's rights activist or anything like that, because I mean, I get it, but I mean, not all guys are toxic and evil. And it is true that if a woman does, I don't want to use it like it's a terrible word or over, like, but nag him like that can really have an effect. I'm not trying to say, oh, it's the same as abuse. I'm not saying that or anything like that. I don't know. Clearly, it wasn't a good marriage. I mean, the whole point is they show that at one point they were a happy family, right? That's how it ends. Seems like looking at an old picture when they were young and the daughter was young, and they were actually happy, and it all sort of fell apart. Which again, that's all too true. It happens. It's all too common. People can't hold it together. I feel like it's a real indictment again of marriage and family.
I think they did still care about each other, though. I mean, obviously he did. I don't think he ever did not love her, but
he never considered having an affair. Like, even though he was fixated on the girl, like, I don't think he was making concrete plans to try to sleep with her. It all fell into his lap, right? And then he doesn't go through with it at the end. where she goes out of her way to have an affair. And like he
Yeah.
says when he catches her at the affair, like even though he is kind of passive aggressive with her, he does say, "Hey, I just want you to be happy," and I do kind of think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, he even says that to Ricky's dad there, towards the end, is he's like, so your wife is sleeping with another, another man, and you don't care? And he's like, well, yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, I get it. Towards the end, he's starting to have some clarity. Like he's taking responsibility for some of the mistakes he's made as well, and he's finally and you think that maybe they're going to move towards repairing things, and of course he's killed, which I feel is like unnecessary. But they really wanted to leave us with something deep and something tragic, I guess. So fair enough.
Because after he was dead, she was in there, crying her eyes out, hugging his clothes in the closet, So, yeah, who knows? But anyway, I think she's the one at fault. Yeah, I mean, he was having some weird shit going on, but I mean, he was not, not faithful, unfaithful.
I mean, like a lot of things, they didn't communicate well. A breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
When he decided to buck against her, she did, she couldn't deal with it and handle it, and he wasn't great about it either. It's just like, this is how things are from now on. I get it because it had flipped from one way to another. There are little touches of like that. Like every time they would have a meal together, they would listen to music that she played. She dictated that. And then
she dictated everything.
And then even when he changed it, he just said, he didn't say, we're not going to do that anymore. He said, we're going to alternate music for now. Like other people will get their turns so he can play his own music. Because, yeah, she dictated. She had this, like a lot of suburban housewives or women, and there's men too. I'm not going to put it all on women. I'm not. But, they have this idyllic idea of, again, family life or adult life or whatever. And this is how it's going to go with the house, the car, the kids, the yard, etc. They have this idea of how it's all going to fit into this neat little box.
Right.
It's going to work out. Well, they see their friend get married and they want the same thing. I don't know. Like, it's good to me because, like, the movie seems to be pressing hard that, like, marriage for a lot of people, it just turns them into people they never wanted to be. Like, it seemed like both of them liked themselves at one point, but after years of marriage, it had twisted them into versions of themselves they didn't like anymore.
Yeah, they were different. They were different people. Because I don't know, whatever. I guess the daughter got older and she pursued her, real estate career, got her license and everything. And he says, I supported you through all that. And then, she's been building her career, and he's been just the sidekick. He just tags along and shakes hands and says hello.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's all she wants him to be.
Yeah, he's the dutiful husband, but just like a role to play rather than actually husband. Like. Because, yeah, he does have a point when he talks about how they've looked there. And I see how other ways they try to humanize him, which now doesn't mean much. But 1999 probably did. It's like, it opens like in the narration, you see him, he's masturbating in the shower. It's like, there I am, jerking off in the shower. And then later he's doing it in bed with her. And she's just like horrified and disgusted by it.
Yeah.
He's just like, I still have blood pumping through my veins. I'm sorry that I want to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, she does have her own sex drive and things like that. But again, she expresses herself differently because she's kind of the freak herself, and she's getting nailed by the real estate king in the thing. She's screaming. She's got her legs open really wide and she's yelling. I mean, I don't think anybody should be judged on how they act in the throes of sexual ecstasy. Nobody looks cool doing it, right? Even the hottest porn stars. It's still kind of ridiculous. I get it. It's the easiest thing in the world to make fun of sex. It's people going, yes, yes, or whatever comes out of their mouth or whatever positions they're doing. It's not super dignified or anything like that. Right? So I'm not going to pick on her for that. I'm saying it shows that, yeah, she still has a libido. But again, they had a breakdown in communication. They couldn't get on the same page about it. So he went one way and she went another, more or less.
Yeah. Yep. So the neighbors move in, and are we supposed to assume that? And this is a great actor. I can't think of his name, but the guy that plays the I love when he introduces himself. He says, so and so, United States Marine Corps. It's like, oh my God. Like, ugh.
You know, they take
People
themselves
actually
too
do
serious.
that. You were in the
They
Marines,
take,
what, 30 years ago? Give me a fucking
they
break.
take it too serious. That's Chris Cooper, by the way.
Chris Cooper, yeah. Great actor.
Yeah, he's very
Full of great actors. This whole movie is chock full of amazing actors.
yeah, but I don't
Including
find
Kevin
many.
Spacey.
I don't find many of the performances that good. Like I said, the one I do like Annette Bening's performance. The others, and again, I don't pick too hard on the characters, on the actors themselves. I don't like the script. I don't like the dialogue. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on with his wife, who is Allison Janney. Like they don't exactly explain what's going on with her, but something's wrong with her.
She's got some sort of mental disorder, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But they don't. They cut a bunch of her scenes apparently because they just like the nonverbal communication. You know, basically the father and her just like sitting together.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So I get it. But
yeah.
so
Good actors.
Are we supposed to presume that he's a closeted homosexual this whole time? That's why he's so angry at gays, or
yeah, and I don't like that angle either. I accept that that's a thing that exists, but I don't know if it really exists in the way they're presenting it. I mean, that late in life, I don't know.
It's awfully weird to you know, basically throw your son out of the house because you think he's gay, and then to go and like, well, maybe maybe he knew what maybe he knew what was up. Let me go see what this guy's all about.
I mean, I understand that, you know, people that face these types of things or have faced it, like repression's a real thing. You can repress something, but his repression is just ridiculous when you think about it. This is a guy who's like 50 years old or something. He was in the Marines and obviously lived his life according to a strict like hetero code. And now it's breaking down. Now,
I think that's probably a common thing. I would just imagine, but
I don't. A common thing to that degree, that late in life, in those sorts of circumstances, I don't know. Again, I find like you're stretching credibility. Yeah, I believe. Again, I know that there are people that are closeted homosexuals, and part of the way they do that, again, is to lash out and act like homophobes. Like, that is a thing. I feel like the movie takes it to an almost cartoonish level. And speaking of cartoonish, sometimes when you have to frame things, like, so the whole scene where he thinks his son is, like, engaging in gay stuff with Lester, like, that's so forced, right? Like, he's watching them and they're in the garage and things just line up. It's like, I'm going to roll a joint. So I'm going to kneel down in front of you because that's what people do when they roll joints. And I'm going to lay back like this, shirtless, while you roll the... Like, it's so forced just to force that thing. It's like, what is this, Austin Powers?
From his perspective, it does look like his son's engaging in
again. Yes, but that's again, it's a very specific framing to make that happen, and I feel like, you know, the movie had to get there somehow. So in this really forced, clunky way, it's like, yeah, he could believe that. Yeah, that's what he thinks. I don't know. It seems to take it a bit too far. I mean, Sam Mendes. He's an English director. This was his first movie, so, you know, make him quite a darling to win Best Picture in the first movie. I've never been thrilled by his movies. His James Bond movies are fine, but they both disappointed me. He did Skyfall and Spectre. I don't like Jarhead. I really do like Road to Perdition. That's the one I like. That's his follow-up.
I was going to say, I thought you liked that one.
I do. And 1917 is on like a list of movies that I keep putting off because I'm always complaining. I'm like, there's not enough movies about World War I. Well, here's a big budget, awesome, cool one. Why don't you watch it? So I'm gonna watch it. But
is that the one that's supposed to look like a single take? It looks like a single take the entire movie. It's not.
I don't know if it's the entire movie, but there's big sections. I think it's supposed to be.
It's. I was very underwhelmed by that, but just because the story he chose, I think, is like it was his grandfather or something, great grandfather or whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's why he chose that story. But the story in particular is not exactly, you know, that interesting to me.
Let's see that.
But
I mean, just
not a bad movie by any means.
Like, people love Skyfall. Like, they thought that was the best Bond movie in like decades, and I'm fine with it. I think Skyfall's fine, but that was like
that the one with Javier Bardem in it?
Yeah.
Javier Bardem.
Yep, Javier Bardem.
I think I've actually seen that one. I don't remember it, but I've seen it. I've seen that. I saw Casino Royale. I don't like the new style. I don't like whatever his name is playing Bond.
Yeah, it took forever, but we're past it. I like them mostly, but like I said, they didn't. I loved the first one, and the rest never lived up to it. I actually really like Casino Royale. It's one of my favorites. It's top 5 Bond for me, and none of the others lived up to that. They were all. But Skyfall's the one that everybody loved. Everyone was nuts for Skyfall. It's like this is like the best Bond in like friggin' forever. It's a big event, and everybody loves Adele, and I don't care about Adele.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was
forgot
a little
about
bloated.
that.
And then I was like, didn't do it for me, but I'm gonna like this one. But again, I didn't dislike it. It was just they're both really big and bloated, and I don't know, not as cool as they're okay. But yeah, as we said, I'm excited for a new direction for Bond, a new actor. It's past time.
I want to see a lesbian of color, for God's sakes.
And I mean, with the Craig thing, I hope they don't do that kind of arc again. Because with Craig, they were like, okay, this is going to be a story following this guy from movie to movie with a beginning, middle, and definite end. Like, okay, that's fine, but don't do it again. You did it with Craig. Don't do it again. Just have a Bond who's on the job and then he's gone. You know, like we already saw. You can have loose continuity as the earlier ones did, but don't make it like a beginning, middle, end. I don't need that.
Yeah,
Bond
I don't.
is a perpetually on the job guy.
That can stand alone, you know.
Yeah, it was an interesting experiment what they did, and they're like, "This is going to show how it becomes a 00," and I really did like it. And then they take the trajectory, and they're like, "We'll put it sort of in a real world context." You know, he can only do this for a few years before he has to, kill Esther. Spoiler alert, James Bond dies in those at the end. Yeah, I like Crash way more than I like this movie. I understand all the flack Crash gets, and I'm not trying to say it's good or anything really, but I like so much more than watch this again. I watched this last weekend. This God of her Crash just sort of washes over me. It's okay.
Which one is Green Book?
That's the one. I didn't see it, but it's based on a true story. Although I guess they really fuck up the details. It's like. What is this? Like back in the 50s, he's like a black like jazz artist or something, and he gets assigned like this white driver, and I guess it's like how they bond, against the very racist backdrop of the times. But apparently that guy, the real guy, like his family was really upset with the movie. They're like, this made him look like an idiot. And they're like, it made him look like he didn't know anything. I guess there was some of that. What's I'm gonna say? White saviorism kind of stuff going on in there, right? It kind of pisses people off. So I never watched Green Book. I
didn't see it either.
But yeah,
I didn't like Crash though. I can tell you that.
I get the criticism of Crash, but I think it's 10 times better than this movie because this movie's bad.
But I feel like we could argue with every Oscar winner pretty much. Rarely do I agree with the choices. So.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they bring those things like that up. Like Crash often, like they do make those lists and Crash is on them. I'm like, man, I feel like that like every second year. And you're just going to pick on Crash? I mean, it's a fire just because they like the soundtrack so much. Like, most people don't remember Chariots of Fire. All they remember is that song.
Yeah.
Like, the movie is completely fine. It's a completely adequate movie. But it was the best song. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason. Did Amadeus
Song's great.
That's what I really want to do. I really want to do Amadeus on here, but I can't find it.
Let's do it.
I really want to do it. I really like that movie.
Yeah, I've got some ideas we can kick around when we get off of here. But
yeah. An interesting thought for Sam Mendes to start. And this doesn't have anything to do with anything really, but if you look on Sam Mendes' Wikipedia page, it mentions that, how we've talked about the Sight and Sound list that goes up every few years of the top things. He was one of the participants in the 2012 list. So his own fan for that year, just his personal, were the 400 Blows, which we're going to do on this show, Blue Velvet, the Lynch movie, Citizen Kane, which we've done on this show, Fandy and Alexander, which is by we did Bergman. We've done a couple of his movies, but we haven't done that. The Godfather Part 2, interesting. I'm like him. I like The Godfather 2 a little more than the first one. The British movie Kess, which I've heard of, seen. Rosemary's Baby, Taxi Driver, There Will Be Blood, which I don't like, and Vertigo, which is also my favorite. My favorite Hitchcock. So we have some things there. Oh yeah, Jake, we talked about Happiness a lot, about maybe doing it.
Yeah, I think
it's
Jake's
a lot better.
he's the one that brought it up. Or we've actually brought it up before to do on the show, but it's just got sidetracked. But that's a true black comedy.
Yeah, that one really goes for it. I like it a lot. I find it's melodramatic than this movie. This movie has a lot of melodrama that turns me off. Yes, Brubaker's great at spies. This was established.
But yeah, this was a big movie at the time. And I mean, again, I think that's why it gets a lot of pushback, because it did win so many awards and it was parodied so much and so often. And whenever you hear that music that I played at the beginning, you know what's coming. So like the people immediately get pissed off with that music. But I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good soundtrack. You know, Rob Zombie and Martin Scorsese pretty much ruined that period of rock and roll for movies. But you know, they picked some decent, you know, songs out of this one that aren't overly used.
I guess not. I mean, they tried to do it for character establishing things, because they have two separate scenes, each for Lester and Carolyn, where they have like scenes in the car to show like their new sort of happy, free attitude. And for Lester, you know, he's of his generation, so it's classic 70s rock. It's, of course, American Woman by the Guess Who. And for her, it's like Don't Rain on My Parade, a classic musical song.
Is that Lawrence Welk or someone?
Show tune song. I'm not sure which version that was.
I'm not.
It might have even been a Sinatra version.
Ah, okay. I'm not familiar with
it. I'm more used to hearing a woman sing it. I think Barbara Streisand does a pretty good version of it, although that predates her a little bit. It's a little older. I mean, it's a fun song. It is a fun song. It's a very song. It's like a defiant woman song, even though she was. That's why I thought it was weird that she was listening to a male vocalist. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, I figured, you know, if you really wanted to hammer home her feeling, because it's like defiant, proud, free woman is really what's going on in Don't Rain on My Parade. It's kind of, I thought it was a little undercut by having that. But
well, yeah. Apparently Mendez had given her that song to listen to, like, to get, you know, closer with her character, and she liked it so much she wanted it put in the movie for one of her scenes. So.
I mean, I think it should be that way. They each get that scene, right? He gets it with American Woman, and then she gets it. I think it is important that they both have those sort of liberated scenes. They're like, I'm happy in my car, and, you know, I've cast off the shackles of my former life, and I'm doing what I want to do now. And there's no better expression than singing in my car. It's even better than her. She's coming from the gun range. She has like a gun sitting on the seat next to her, right? She's like, I'm having an affair and I'm shooting guns and life is great type thing. But
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, some of the music is used to good effect there. I mean, when he's working out in the garage, at one point you hear Dylan doing All Along the Watchtower, which is kind of nice to hear the original version, because it's almost always the cover
Jimi Hendrix.
Which is a great cover. I just mean, it's
yeah. I mean, to the extent to where I thought that was a Jimi Hendrix song, not a Bob Dylan song. You know,
I probably might have thought that at some point too earlier in life, because it's a more famous as a cover, I think, because it's got that riff. Yeah, I do actually. You know, you can say what you want about Zack Snyder, but I really like how they use it in Watchmen. They use it for like the final descent towards when they juice it up and they fly it towards Antarctica where the base is, and it's like their final descent towards. I actually like that quite a bit. Yeah, see, I think Wes Bentley is definitely. Carolyn is the only one I like. I feel like her performance is kind of believable. I feel like everybody else is too over the top and silly. I can't stand Wes Bentley anyway. I was like, he's such a creep. I don't mean the actor; he's fine with other stuff, but he's just such a creep in this movie. I'm much more put off by his interest in a girl his own age than I am put off by Lester's interest in a girl half his age, because he's that fucking creepy and weird to me and off-putting. And all his relationships annoy me, especially with Lester, because he kind of ruins Lester, and then he just sort of smirks at his death. It's like, well, he was happy in the end, so I did a good thing. No. And now you're going to run off with his daughter. Of course, maybe they're not now, because, then again, I don't know. I was going to say, he doesn't care. Like, he wouldn't care about Carolyn. It's like, oh, my husband's been murdered, and now so I really need my daughter. He'd be like, fuck that, you don't like your mom, let's go. Like, I don't think he would have any empathy for her.
Yeah. But again, people wouldn't hate this so much if it wasn't so successful.
That is one of the reasons why I hated it more back in the day than I do now. Culture. Huge part of pop culture. I know I blinked out for a second there. And it just irritated me to no end.
It is stupid and it's pretentious, but I knew people like that were stupid and pretentious just like that. So, I mean.
I hate picking on movies for being pretentious, because I know there's stuff I like that other people would consider pretentious. I get that can be pretentious or really nail it down objectively. I liked it. It's pretentious and you like that? Like, I know some people would have that reaction. I can't help it. We like what we like, and yeah, I just find it kind of vapid, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why it bothered me, because so many people seem to really like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as Jay. As I said, my dislike has faded because finally the movie has faded over time. Again, people still remember it, but it's not the same as it was in the 2000s. In 99, the 2000s, it was just, it was one of the movies. A darling in every sense. It was commercially successful. It was successful with critics and won awards, and it had this big, massive effect on pop culture where you saw it's, again, even to the point where it'd be parodied. And like you said, in Not Another Teen movie, they also did the same thing in a Family Guy thing, where Peter just starts filming about the bag. He's like, wow, sometimes there's so much beauty in the world. It's like God is putting on like a show or something like that, and like God's up in heaven yelling at him. He's like, it's just some trash blowing in the wind. You have any idea how complicated your circulatory system is? Which I think is valid.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think it's a fine movie.
I just can't. There's too many bad feelings and too many bad memories there. I mean, it's a real part of like angsty art, I guess, which I guess I can find funny. It's a dark, cynical look at modern suburbia, but I find like its tone is kind of a little too, I don't know, a little too inconsistent.
Well, much like Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K. has been canceled as well, so.
I think it's a little harsh to cancel Louis C.K. I just dismiss him because I think he's an idiot, but I don't think he deserves to be canceled.
I don't either. I don't even disagree with what he did, but whatever.
I guess I don't know. I find it really pathetic. Is more what I think.
No,
I don't
for
think
sure.
I don't think it was malicious. I don't think it was malicious in any way. I was just like, wow, that's what you like to do. Okay.
But when you ask for consent, hey, is it you guys cool with me beating off over here? And they're like, yeah. All right.
And I get it. Some people were like, well, we felt we had consent. I mean, I'm not going to get in the middle of that. Like, he's really prolific, so obviously he's done some stuff that I do think is funny. But I definitely would not get along with him. Like, I think that maybe I'm inappropriate in too sexual times, but I've got a guy like him, Jesus Christ. For like one of the end-ups, he's just like, I want to be like the Willy Wonka for like perverts. I'm like, well, it turns out you really are, man. I think you are. But you're always thinking about like fucking everything. It's like, can I fuck that or fuck this? Or, I mean, I get it. It's the same type of thing that happens. And again, I don't want to pick it. As one of the beautiful people, I understand that this is a man who went through life as an ugly, unattractive guy, but then suddenly he was, desirable for other reasons. And then it made his head all weird. I get that. That happened to other people like Kevin Smith, for instance. Kevin Smith has spent half his life like calling himself like a fat fuck and stuff like that. It took him a long time to get over that. Even though he was successful and funny and people liked him, he was still a fat fuck and he was worthless and chicks didn't want to fuck him, And it took him a while to get past that. And I feel like Louis C.K., it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I'm just this balding, unattractive guy and, nobody would give a shit, but I am a successful comedian. So, it's a weird balance and I hate myself and I'm disgusted, but at the same time, I don't know. I can sort of get it.
Now Kevin Smith looks like he has AIDS, but he has not changed the size of his hockey jersey. He still wears a hockey jersey. It's about 4 sizes too big for him.
It's pretty funny. Because now he looks like he's like melting away or shrinking.
But speaking of that, there is a new Willy Wonka movie. You mentioned Wonka.
Yeah, I'm sure I won't
desire
like
to see that.
Oh, I'm tired of like prequels to everything. Like we've been tired of prequels for 30 years. Not everything needs a goddamn origin story. It's not like Roald Dahl is this amazing writer. He was a good writer. And you want to talk about somebody getting canceled? Ooh, he should have been canceled way before he actually was. But, But anyway, Roald Dahl, I mean, if he thought like it was worth writing about Willy Wonka's origins, then he would have. But he didn't, because that wasn't the point. You're right about characters when they're interesting. I don't know. This is supposed to be some sort of origin, isn't it? Like, I like Timothy.
Is it? I don't even know.
I thought it was. Is it just another remake of Chocolate Factory? I thought it was supposed to be like I thought it was. I think it's an origin.
I don't have any idea.
I think it's an origin to show like how he made the factory and found the Oompa Loompas and that kind of shit. And I just don't care about that. I like Timothée Chalamet. He's really cute, but I don't. I know he doesn't have much value to me beyond that. I mean, I'll watch Dune. I'll watch the next Dune, even though I probably said this before. Jay can hear me blather on about this epic series and the books and stuff like that. Dune is not one of those. Like Dune, I read the first book back in the late 90s because Ryan liked it, and I found it so dry. It was such a chore to get through. I was like, God, there's a whole bunch of these. I can't read this. This is way too hard. Like I just couldn't like the style and things like that. So, but I mean, I was excited for the movie just because of Villeneuve. So I like Villeneuve. So I watched the movie having like nothing to like, not like watching Lord of the Rings or something, right? Where like I analyze everything, I compare everything. Like I don't. It's kind of a relief actually because I was never a big Dune fan. I can just watch the movie and it can be a movie. But yeah, that's the two reasons I'll watch it. One is because I like Villeneuve, and the other is it's nice to look at Timothée Chalamet. Besides that, I don't really care.
I didn't like that first Dune movie or the most recent Dune movie very much. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I mean, it was cool visually. I'll give that to, Villeneuve, because I do like him quite a lot. He's got, I mean, I like pretty much everything he's done, but I didn't like David Lynch's Dune. I didn't like the book.
That movie's such a mess. Yeah. David Lynch's Dune is interesting, but it also has so many boring scenes that go nowhere. It's such a contradictory movie. Like there's things about it that I do think are kind of cool, like some of the things he changed and some of his ideas, but there's so many scenes that are long and drawn out and go nowhere. That movie's over 2 hours long, but it feels like it's like 4 hours long. So weird decisions like with like Sting and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a hard movie to watch. It's really hard.
It's the only thing I did like was I saw who was the Spanish director that was going to do that they he wrote a bunch of storyboards.
Jodorowsky. Jodorowsky. I never shut up about that. That's the most important movie that was never made. Jodorowsky's Dune. When I saw that like years ago, like that's one of my favorite documentaries ever. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like that shaped the film industry, particularly sci-fi fantasy. Like everything that came from that movie that didn't happen because he assembled the talent. He got so many artists that had never worked in the medium of film together and got them into film, and like Alien, Blade Runner, like that's just the obvious ones. And there's just a massive ripple effect. So I need to watch that documentary again because it's
me too. Because I did like that quite a bit, even though it's not really a movie. I mean, not a fiction movie like it was intended to be. But
And he wasn't going to follow the book very faithfully either. He was going to have all this stuff that he changed completely that probably would have really annoyed hardcore Dune fans. But again, I'm not one, so I wouldn't have minded seeing it.
Man, he has
I'm
done
right
some
now.
We haven't done him on this channel yet, so we should definitely do one of his
Jodorowsky?
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched The Holy Mountain last year for the first time in like 15 years. It's fun.
I bought the Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet, just because I know it's going to look great.
It's so colorful. It should really pop. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I have a bunch of the comics that he collaborated on with Mobius for Humanoids. It seems strange that they didn't make a Dune comic out of that. I think that was the original intent, and then like because of rights stuff, they couldn't. I mean, that's obviously where the Incal comes from. So in a way, maybe it's good they didn't make it because the Incal is such a cool comic. Because a lot of the main concepts he wanted to use in Dune are definitely in the Incal, which I'm so glad nobody made a movie of. Like, leave it the fuck alone. Although, plenty of movies like just directly rip off stuff from it. It's funny. I have, I bought some sort of like 2012 deluxe edition of it, and the intro is by prominent writer Brian Michael Bendis. And instead of like talking about like the comics like impact on him or like how cool he thinks it is, like it's basically him just pleading with people to stop ripping it off. I'm like, okay, we don't need that in the introduction, Brian. I get what you're saying. You're not wrong, but is that really appropriate for the introduction? Because yeah, I get it. There's quite a few movies that take stuff from it, but
yeah,
anyway. I'm glad that it hasn't been made into a movie. If you want to see like a movies like that, you can watch like The Fifth Element or something.
Not a bad movie.
No,
I mean, again, that's another one I could put on and watch at pretty much any time. I don't think it's particularly great, but
because I know where that movie sprang from, it hurts me because it could have been way better. Like, it's a fine movie. I enjoyed it. It's entertaining, but it could have been so much better. But I am glad that years later they did get to make the Valerian movie. Nobody likes that movie. I like it. I like it a lot.
Never watched it.
It's at least visually spectacular. You should watch it at least for that.
Flopped pretty hard, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, financially,
that
means nothing to us. But
super expensive movie. Did not come close to making money back. But I like the movie quite a bit.
Was Harrison Ford in that? It had a big name in it.
I think I'd remember.
Yeah, you would. I'm sure.
I didn't really know the two leads at all.
Because they kind of tried to play it like it was a, what's the term, young adult, like a YA type movie, didn't they?
Which is kind of stupid because that's not what the comics were, right? Like,
right.
That was,
right.
I mean, the earliest comics predate all that shit by quite a bit. The earliest comics predate Star Wars, for God's sake. I mean, I love Star Wars, but some people seem to think that like Star Wars introduced all these sci-fi concepts. I'm like, Star Wars introduced like no sci-fi concept. It just wrapped them up. I mean, I don't care. I love Star Wars. I'm just saying, like, that's why I think maybe I should give Dune another shot to read, because recently I've been reading, speaking of dry science fiction, I've been reading Asimov, I've been reading Foundation, and I mean, his stuff is dry, and I don't mind it. So maybe I should give Dune another shot. I don't know. There were two big series, sci-fi and fantasy series, that Ryan and a couple of my friends really liked growing up that I never could get into. One was Dune and the other was Wheel of Time. I read the first Wheel of Time and thought it was completely boring. I'm sure the books got better, but I didn't care about the world enough to do it. They made a Wheel of Time show or something, so maybe that's, I don't know. I thought I would hear more about that because it has a massive following. Wheel of Time is massive. Like, it has tons of fans. Those books sold like crazy. When he died, people were like, how are we going to finish this? And then Brandon Sanderson finished it. But,
Wheel of Time, huh? That's not the Disney thing they did a few years ago, was it?
No, it's on Prime. Amazon Prime did it.
Okay.
But I have no idea if it's any good. It's, it's kind of like a high fantasy Lord of the Rings type world with, different kind of elements thrown into it, like a lot of those. Couldn't get into it. I mean, that's my wheelhouse. I read a lot of that stuff, but that's easily the biggest, most popular one. The other big popular one that maybe I'll eventually get into is The Witcher. There's a lot of Witcher books, and that made a Netflix show, which I did watch a little. It's confusing as hell. It jumps around in time so much, but it doesn't tell you it's doing it. Like, I don't mind shows that jump around in time, but you actually have to have inside knowledge to know that, oh, by the way, this next sequence we're watching, that's like 30 years before what we just watched. Like, they don't tell you. Why don't they put it on the screen? So it's confusing as fuck. So I watched
that was
4 or 5 episodes of that.
Yeah, that was real popular. I think was it the second or the third season maybe that people like really wanted, and it took them a few years. Maybe COVID was.
Yeah, and they had to recast it. Like Henry Cavill left, and they got
that's what it was.
I think they got one of the Hemsworths or something like that. I didn't watch that far. I watched about 3 or 4 episodes, and they're all good and they're all entertaining. But I was just really confused by them. I think it's because like the original books, they weren't written sort of like with a plan in mind the way some of these things are. It was just like stuff sort of came out as it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to find the Clive Barker comics. I have a few from like the early 90s, but I don't have that.
I've not heard of that.
But I mean, anytime I can ever find like a Clive Barker adaptation comic, I get it because they're hard to find and they're at least interesting. But that's not very many. I also hate how I can't collect Avarat anymore. The books, those were his kids' books, fantasy books. You can still get them, but you can't get the illustrated ones. The original ones had like paintings he'd done too. But now if you try to buy them, you just get paperbacks that don't have them. And that annoys me because I own the second book with the paintings. So yeah. I have so many holes from stuff that like is out of print, but we don't have time for me to go on about that. But there's so many things where I have like part 2 or part 3 or part 1, but I'm missing, and it's out of print. But that Avarat one really bothers me. I mean, Clive Barker's a big name. You think they could do it out of print?
Yeah. He is. I was told he was going to pass away of some unknown illness like 15 years ago. So,
yeah, I mean, he has slowed down like the work he does, but still seems to be okay. Then again, I don't know. He's not a public guy. Like I don't think he was ever on Twitter or anything like that. So I don't really know exactly what's
smart.
Like one of the things it says on here, right on Wikipedia about American Beauty, is like one of the things that like one of the explorations is sexual grooming. Like there's no sexual grooming in this movie. Where's the sexual grooming? I get that he had a fixation on like a high school girl, but he didn't like kidnap her and keep her in a basement or something. And he didn't start dating her. So I don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying what he did was right or was, by any means, but he didn't commit a crime. I mean, he was about to, but
And again, where is the sex? Was he about to? It's never even said if she's underage or not. Like the boy is 18. The boy himself is 18, so it's at least believable the 2 girls might be 18. I wouldn't have been, I have an late April birthday. So in my senior year of high school, I was 17 for most of the year, but I was 18 for the last like 2 months. So, But yeah, I don't see how there's sexual grooming in this. I understand what sexual grooming is, and I don't see it in this movie because really she has a fixation on him too. Of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's.
If a 10-year-old had a fixation on him, we'd all be like, cute, fine, normal. But, I mean, it is kind of a weird, like, I'm not trying to take a position here, but it is a weird thing. We grow up, and it's completely normal that kids are sexually attracted to adults. Like, that's just something that can happen, and nobody comments on it. It's, this horrible sickness and stigma, etc. But anyway. But yeah, I don't see sexual grooming in this movie. It'd be different if he was like, okay, I'm going to take you out on dates now. And, that doesn't happen. So I don't see how there's sexual grooming. The closest thing to sexual grooming is they do make out and then it's like, oh, we can have sex now. And then she's like, I'm a virgin. And he's like, oh, it just all hit me at once that I shouldn't do this, which is, again, kind of whatever. Fine. Like I said, I was never against him. So for some people, like, they needed that because maybe it redeems his character. I don't care. I was never against his character. Like, I wasn't rooting for him, but I wasn't against him either. I do feel like his death is, I mean, obviously in the context of the movie, of course it's senseless. But I mean, as a storytelling device, I feel like it's senseless. I do feel like it's a cheap thing to make us feel more.
So did he kill him because he was rejected, or because?
I mean, I guess that's the only thing that's the only conclusion we can draw. There's like he was rejected, or he saw like that side of me, so he has to die, type thing, right? Like I was crying, and then I tried to make a move on him and kiss him. Like for anybody who's seen, it's completely unacceptable. Yeah. So if somebody saw that, they have to die. I guess so. That's what I think. It's probably that, right? He has this strong hetero identity. To have it compromised like that, and again, it's not like Kevin Spacey's character came on to him, but still, like, yeah, he's like, this guy saw this. I can't have somebody see this. I mean, the movie ends where it ends, but I don't think it would be too hard to solve that murder. He wore gloves. We do see that he wore gloves to commit the murder, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, either that or you made my son gay. You know, you made my son gay, and you made me gay,
and possibly made me gay. There's a whole section here on the themes in Wikipedia that talks about imprisonment and redemption, and it makes no sense to me at all. Mendes called American Beauty a rite of passage film about imprisonment and escape from imprisonment. Now I get it. He doesn't mean like literal imprisonment, like going to jail. The monotony of Lester's existence is established through his gray, nondescript workplace and characterless clothing. And yeah, okay, but that's been done a million times. And but we saw that in Brazil, for Christ's sake. We did recently. It's been done.
Yeah, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole that you were talking about, all of the interpretation and all this. I've just kind of looked at the face value stuff. I haven't.
I even
the fan theories.
Yeah, conformity and beauty. See, I even brought up early Fight Club was part of it. Like I said, there was a whole tide of movies right around the same time that all had that whole thing, like breaking out against the role society is imposed on you. It's in Fight Clubs, it's even in The Matrix to a certain extent. They poke fun of it in Office Space. Those are all 1999 movies.
Fight Club was 99?
I believe so, yes.
Wow, why was that not? I mean, why that instead of The Sixth Sense, which I like The Sixth Sense, but it's pretty one note, you know?
I think it's because, and I'm not going to go on this because you already know how I feel about Shyamalan, but I think it's because The Sixth Sense was one of those like bridge type movies. It was the type of movie like most people who like weren't into like a horror movie or that kind of thing wouldn't watch those movies. But The Sixth Sense was like something that had a foot in that but appealed to them, I think. Because they're just like, oh, it was actually a ghost story, but it was really clever the way it was done. It was, it was just
he was dead the whole time.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
So I don't want to pick on people who like that movie because, I mean, as much as I hate Shyamalan, I mean, that's one of his least offensive movies to me. It's okay. But I think that's probably why. Because, horror movies aren't really mainstream. Supernatural thrillers aren't mainstream. But this is a movie that kind of bridged that for the people that don't usually watch that, I think.
I bet it made more money than everything else that was nominated.
Let's see what the highest grossing films of 1990
that was a huge movie.
I want to see that. I'm going to look it up.
I didn't see it. Yeah, Jacob's right. It's not horror. It's a thriller.
Yeah. It's sort of has a foot in different things. Well, obviously, even though it's not that. Yeah, it was the second highest. Only Phantom Menace beat it. Not that Phantom Menace was good, but it's the first Star Wars movie in a long time, so obviously that's number one. So it's interesting The Matrix isn't as high as I would have thought.
Yeah.
So it goes Phantom Menace, Sixth Sense, Toy Story 2, then The Matrix. I didn't even go see Toy Story 2 in theater. I don't know why. Like, I love Toy Story, but I don't know what was going on there. Because I was going to say, I saw obviously Phantom Menace in theater. I didn't see too much in it. Let's see. Yeah, of the top 10, the only movies I saw Star Wars, The Matrix, The Mummy, and The World Is Not Enough. Those are all in the top 10. I saw all of those. Speaking of
I
Bond.
saw all those. I was really big into movies at the time, so I probably saw pretty much everything.
One thing I kind of forgot about American Beauty is that it's a DreamWorks production.
Yeah. Kind of before they got into, I mean, you really look at DreamWorks, you think of animation now, or at least
Animation, yeah. But it debuted, and it was a fairly new place. It had only been founded in '94. So yeah, it's weird. Yeah, you definitely think of it as sort of an alternative to Pixar or Disney. But it did do a number of big movies that won Best Picture. American Beauty, Gladiator, and A Beautiful Mind were all all that. That's kind of interesting. Which all, by the way, are all movies I think are all overrated.
I agree.
Notting Hill was really a big success in '99. I guess it sort of makes sense to a certain, it's kind of the height of what's his name's popularity. Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant? Yeah.
Because it's a combination of Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say
that's
Julia
really
Roberts,
what does it. I don't know if that drives movies anymore, but in the '90s that really drove movies, right? If you had like two really big actors like that paired up, like that was enough. Like nowadays, I mean, actors are still very popular, but I don't feel like that necessarily sells a movie anymore.
No, not at all. I wouldn't think so.
Because I can
You can't put like Fox Penn and expect to do big numbers because of that,
Yeah, because I can think of a lot of movies in recent years that had, maybe some big stars that like did nothing. But it seems like that was maybe the height of it in '99. Like, there's obviously popular actresses now, but I don't know. The audience doesn't have the same relationship with these actresses anymore. Because all I can remember the '90s was like what darlings people like Julia Roberts and Meg Ryan were, or the one from or the one from Speed.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, like they were like can't miss, right? They seemed to like be successful in pretty much everything they did in the '90s.
Yeah, they both did a
good
lot
or
of those
bad,
rom-coms. Yeah,
good or bad. They made big money, and people adored them. Obviously, people adore actresses now, but I don't know. Maybe it's just something I'm misremembering. It seems like a long time since I can remember like where you had like a top billing of say an actor and an actress, and that just like people were like sold, going to see that because I want to see those two together. I mean,
yeah.
They liked Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks together so much they did it like twice.
You've Got Mail is one of them, right?
Yeah, I think it's Sleepless in Seattle. You Got Mail.
Yeah.
Which are both movies I've seen parts of on TV, but never all the way through. Yeah, see, I'm interested. Like Hilary Swank won Best in '99. Hilary Swank won Best Actress in Boys Don't Cry, but Boys Don't Cry wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. That always is kind of weird to me. That you can get like a Best Actor or Best Actress role in a movie that wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. That to me that seems kind of contradictory, but I don't know. I have no idea how their stupid criteria works.
Yeah, that seems to me like a motivated by other reasons. I mean, even though now it would get a lot of backlash for her not being a transgender person playing that role, right?
Yeah, '99 had so many movies with buzz besides like American Beauty and The Matrix and Fight Club.
It was a good year for movies. Great year for movies.
Magnolia, which maybe we could do on here because it's such a complicated movie.
I like it.
Magnolia is one of those movies, like, if you described it to someone who never heard of it, they're like, that's not a movie.
And then it rains frogs.
They'd be like, nobody would greenlight that convoluted, weird script. I'm like, no, it's true. And at one point, all the characters at the same time are singing the same Amy Mann song. It's mind-blowing. They'd be like, you're fucking with me. I'm like, this was a movie. This was a movie that happened. It was greenlit and went to theaters and people saw it. Like, most people are like, that was never made. You made that up. But no, Magnolia is a thing that happened.
Talk about
It's
big
fascinating.
actors, man. Tom Cruise was huge around that time.
Yeah. He was like really reaching another level.
I mean, Tom Cruise around around that, around the whatever the Kubrick movie, Eyes Wide Shut, and then
Same year as this, 99.
what was the remake of the French film where
Oh,
he's
I loathe that movie. Vanilla Sky, 2001.
Vanilla Sky? Yeah, I mean around that
That movie,
time he
it's another
was.
movie that really
Yeah.
hurts my head to watch. Another movie full of pointless, meandering conversations that makes me want to like jump into the screen and kill people.
I don't like either one of those, by the way. I went back and watched the original when I realized it was a remake.
I've never seen the original.
I think Penelope Cruz is in it as well.
Confusing when Tom Cruise was dating Penelope Cruz.
Or maybe it's Spanish.
Did date.
Yeah. Was that before or after Katie Holmes?
Before. Katie Holmes got him and his like at least crazy girl, which was like 2005-ish for like the next, I don't know, 7-8 years. Like he started to calm down the 20 pounds a bit. But remember when he was like bonkers and he was bouncing around on Oprah's couch and yelling at Matt Lauer and stuff, like that was all within the same amount of years, and that's when he was with Katie Holmes. And people were like, I don't know, I don't think Katie Holmes is safe. I think maybe he like brainwashed her or kidnapped her, or a lot of people still push the like he's gay, and this is all a front. It's part of his image and the Scientology and all that shit.
Well,
I saw a lot of movies in '99.
Yeah, me too. I need to go
First
through a
movie
list. I've probably seen everything, all the big movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going by just theater because I've seen other. Like I saw Varsity Blues, but not in theater. But like the earliest movie I saw in '99 in theater apparently was Virus. What a great start!
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, that ridiculous, I don't know, aliens on a boat or something. Speaking of '99, a movie, Payback. I love that movie. We're gonna do a live commentary of that soon.
Payback, heck yeah.
I love that movie. I haven't seen it. I'm so excited to watch it. Maybe I'll be disappointed if it's so long. Yeah, I've seen most of these movies. I'm just trying to get to the ones I've actually seen in theater. We're jumping over a few different things here. The Rage, Carrie 2. That was my next movie I saw in theater.
Wow.
But I still like that movie. Wing Commander, which is easily the worst movie I saw in theater in '99.
Was that awesome it's like a CGI movie, right? Or some sort of weird animated?
Yeah. It was live action, but it was full of terrible effects. It had Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard, and it was trying to do like a. I think they saw like the popularity of like Starship Troopers, like we'll do another thing like that, and like it was awful. So I'm just going by these movies that I saw in theater when I was 16. Again, I've seen a lot of these movies. Then The Matrix. The Matrix was next. So then that's the spring. That's going up to April. Go. I saw Go in theaters. I don't even know why, because this is before I really had the fixation that I would develop on Sarah Polley. I mean, although she was still a presence in my life, as I said, even when I was a kid, but still. So Go was next. I wish I could say I saw Existence in theaters, but I didn't. The Mummy was next. I saw The Mummy. We're getting to the start of the summer. I saw The Mummy. Loved it. I mean, it doesn't really hold up anymore, but I still like it. And then the next movie was the big one, Star Wars: Phantom Menace. That's in May.
Hey, I'll be right back.
All the old stuff. Yep. I'm sure people are enthralled in knowing in chronological order the movies I saw in theater in the year 1999. Wow, there was a Brave Little Toaster sequel, but that's just Disney Home Video. That can get a theatrical release. I must have seen at least a couple more. Oh, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. That was the next thing. Now we're getting into summer. Big summer comedy. Whoop-de-doo. I saw Run Lola Run in theaters, but not during its original theatrical run. I saw it 2 years later. Tarzan. I saw Tarzan. I think that was the last Disney animated movie I saw in theaters for a few years. But I had a run from like Little Mermaid right throughout to Tarzan, so that's a decade. So Tarzan. I did see Big Daddy in theater. So Big Daddy. Oh, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. You better believe I was there. That's June. So yeah, I saw quite a few movies. July to September. Let's see here. Saw American Pie in theater. It wasn't my idea, but I did. Saw The Blair Witch Project in theater. Wasn't my idea, but I did. So man, yeah, I saw quite a few. This was before I even had like a girl to drag around. Saw The Haunting, which sucked. I saw Inspector Gadget. I don't remember why. So that could be even worse than Wing Commander. That was because it was like with a friend I hadn't seen in years. So I don't know. I think he picked the movie, so I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. So yeah, I saw quite a few movies. Any more as we get into? I must have seen something in the fall. I wish I could say Iron Giant, but I didn't. Didn't actually see The Sixth Sense. And lots of movies here that I like Broke Down Palace, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, but no. Oh, Universal Soldier: The Return. You bet I was there in theater. Possibly one of the last Jean-Claude Van Damme movies to see in theater. It's terrible. It's an awful movie. I mean, I love Universal Soldier, but The Return is terrible. Yeah, so man, I saw a lot of movies in theaters when I was 16. Now we're getting into the fall. I saw Stir of Echoes in theater. I don't know why. That's September.
Oh,
yeah,
Matthew Broderick in a live action Inspector Gadget. That sounds amazing.
Oh, it's even. Have you seen it?
No.
Whatever you're picturing, I promise it's even worse. It is fantastic.
I don't like Matthew Broderick at all in anything I've ever seen.
It's one of the worst things he's ever done.
War Games I like, but other than that,
same here. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to him. He's a super bland guy, but you will actively hate him if you watch Inspector Gadget. You'll hate him. He's so terrible. So we're getting into the fall here. Don't worry, I'm almost done. I know everybody's riveted by the movies I saw in theater. So American Beauty actually came out in October, so we're later in the year. Of course, I didn't see it though.
Well, we're in a time where it wasn't all just dumped in December like it is now.
Yeah, I didn't actually see Fight Club in theater. I saw it on video.
I think I saw that in theater. Yeah.
Now that I'm getting to October, I don't know if I've seen any of these. I mean, I've seen them, but I mean actually in theater. Did I see Being John Malkovich in theater? I kind of vaguely think I did, even though that would have been before I was into that kind of stuff. I kind of think I did see that in theater. I feel like I did.
My roommate in the dorm, you'll love this. He was like big into artsy stuff. He's how I saw Pi. We saw Pi on VHS, and
that's how I saw Pi. Somebody in the dorm dragged us in and was like, "You're gonna watch this." That's the same way I wound up, which was terrible because I hated it, but it's also the same way I wound up watching Memento, so that was good. Same thing. So like, you're gonna watch this movie, it goes backwards.
He tattoos himself.
There's Dogma, Miss Dogma in theater. Didn't see it.
That's
Sleepy Hollow and The World Was Not Enough. There we go. I saw Sleepy Hollow and The World Was Not Enough.
Both good movies.
We didn't see Toy Story 2 at the time. Got November, so we're almost at the end of the year. But I'm just curious if there's any other movies I saw.
Oh, go ahead and round it out.
In theater. And these are just things I saw in theater. Obviously, I've seen a lot of these movies, and I'm jumping over them. Like Girl Interrupted. I love Girl Interrupted. You can see it in theater.
That's Angelina Jolie and someone else.
Yeah, so I didn't see anything in November or December. But yeah. Well, yeah, so as a 16-year-old, I saw quite a few movies in theater. I'm kind of impressed because that's before I even had a girl to go on dates with or anything. That was just movies I saw with like friends and stuff.
So Jacob
Kind of.
mentions this is what I don't think Cole was aware that there was a director's cut of Payback.
No, I had no idea. Is it better?
It had been so long since I'd seen the original. I don't remember the differences.
Yeah.
But,
Like if I saw it now, like I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd know because I haven't seen the originals. Like I said, I'm a little worried about watching because maybe it won't hold up. It's just a movie I always really liked and thought was kind of underrated. You know, it's not one that gets brought up or mentioned or anything like that.
if we do cover it, I'd like to watch both just so I get a feel for it, you know.
No, I hope we can do it soon, maybe in the aftermath
We
of
find
Christmas.
This is the fucking problem, guys. Like we do this like American Beauty, right? It's got to be everywhere. This motherfucker is streaming on everything
This was
you
on
can
Stars
imagine.
forever, and now it's
Man,
gone. Like
This was nowhere free for me either. It's on archive.org if you guys want to watch it for free. It's on there.
it's kind of ironic. I had to watch it on a laptop because the first time I ever watched it was on a computer, which is the first time I ever watched a movie on a computer, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. So yeah. But yeah, I remember like anytime I went into Stars and just did like search, you know, let's do this on. Like American Beauty was always there, right there, because you know I'm looking alphabetically.
Yeah.
So it's always right there at the top. There's American Beauty. I'm like, fuck you, and then I move on. You know, less of an action movie. Yeah, I don't think I got that.
It's
I like.
apparently I haven't read the book.
I like the
so
action.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I actually I can't remember Christopherson even does in the movie. It's been too long. I only have the vaguest memory of the movie. I just know that I really liked it. I found it really entertaining. Like I'm not saying like it's a classic. It was a movie I always enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to watching. So I'm hopefully maybe in the aftermath of Christmas we can do like a live commentary of it. I think it would be fun. But I would like to track down this director's cut, and that would be interesting.
Yeah. Seems like there's a director's cut of everything these days, but in that case, I'm glad because apparently it changes the movie quite a bit. So
It's good when it
difference. You hear all these stories like Mimic, you know, how Mimic was butchered by the Weinsteins and this and that. And finally Del Toro puts out his version. And I'm just like, you know, I mean,
it's not that special.
I didn't think the original cut was that great either. So I just am not. I mean, I love the concept. I love the subject matter. It's just the movie doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, I don't remember it too well.
It's very.
But speaking of like my friends, I think I told you I had one of my friends that I saw some of those movies 99 with. He was like so creepy. Like he walked out of Mimic because he like bugs creeped him out.
Wow.
I mean, I guess usually noir trumps action for me too. It's just I don't think the way I remember Payback was too noirish. I mean, obviously it had those elements, but I guess I remembered it more as just sort of another Mel Gibson action type vehicle noir element.
That's what they sold it as. Yeah, they sold it as an action film. Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting because obviously I'm the same way. I do think noir. Well, I mean, noir trumps action for me in some ways. I don't know. At the highest levels, it does. Like, my favorite noir movies are probably better than my favorite action movies. But then again, a lot of them blend together, so I don't know.
I've seen a lot of bad noir movies, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of pure action, right? I'm always blathering on about pure action movies on here, especially a lot of the Hong Kong ones, which I'll certainly be watching some more of over this Christmas break.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like whoever wrote the Wikipedia article on like the themes and stuff of American Beauty, like, was very unimaginative. It's all very dry. Like when Lester is caught masturbating by Carolyn, his angry retort about their lack of intimacy. It's the first time he says the issue and Carolyn's superficial investments in others. He's trying to regain a voice in a home that only respects the voices of mother and daughter. His final turning point. He no longer thinks of her as a sex object, but as a daughter. He holds her close and wraps her. Yeah, I get all that. I just think it's clunky and stupid. But I feel like they felt they had to do that. It's like, we're trying to get people to root for this guy, but they're not going to stay with it if he sleeps with this teenage girl.
Yeah. It definitely would have played differently if he grew with it. Yeah.
I feel like if you are gonna kill him, wouldn't it be like more poignant, like for the wife to come in, find him banging a teenager, and kill him then? I feel like how he's killed is like almost, again, it is sort of a bait and switch. It's like first it's a joke. Oh, his sister's hiring somebody to kill. Not sister, the daughter's hiring someone to kill him, and you finally see in the movie, and she's like, "I'm kidding." He's like, "I know," and then it's like, "Oh, definitely the wife's gonna kill him." It's like, no, it's the repressed homo guy.
Right. Well, you forget about him. He tried to kiss him, and he said no, and he went home. You don't even think he's in the picture anymore.
Yeah. No, I don't like the ending, but then again, I don't like hardly anything about it.
Oh, red herrings aplenty.
Having begun to act his age again, Lester achieves closure. He smiles at a family photo. The camera slowly pans from Lester to the kitchen wall. The witch of blood shot rings up. The slow pan reflects the peace of his death. I mean, yeah, I get it. He was peaceful when he died. He didn't see it coming. He didn't know. He was having a happy moment, and then he had brains blown out. So,
I mean, I think it's the right way to do it. I mean, even though I would have liked to have seen it happen, just to have a better image of it. But I think it works totally fine the way they did it. This was an R,
I don't have an
right?
issue with the way they did it.
I
don't have an issue with the way they did it. I figure it was R.
Yeah, had to have been.
I mean, they said like the F word a lot, which is usually
a couple sets of
even in
breasts
1999. Oh yeah, breasts too. Yeah, you get to see Mina Savari's, which I think, while smaller, are a lot better if we're going to go there. But
I mean, I don't think either one are really a whole lot to write home about. But
no, and plus the other one, like I said, it's really fast. Thora Birch, it's only like 2 seconds.
They're fine. They're perfectly fine.
Breasts get a B.
I'm gonna do a mashup of every time we talk about breasts in this show.
It'd be like 6 hours long.
We went on a tirade on one time. It was like a 30-minute conversation.
I know, and I had this whole thing about the role, how women with large breasts, how they see themselves in society and how they're portrayed in the media and that, and some of the sympathy I do feel for them. Because I get it, some of the women with big breasts, there's a free ride there if they're willing to exploit it. But a lot of, women, they don't want to do that. Part of me.
What's up, Ben? We're kind of jumping all around, yeah.
It's kind of chaotic. This isn't one I did like my normal careful note-taking or breaking down for because I have too much contempt for it. So Jay's kind of let me jump around and get out some of my grievances.
I think we've kind of touched on most of it by now.
Yeah. And I was trying to look at the Wikipedia article like for some inspiration, but all this stuff is really dry and stupid. But yeah, I can't believe so much is written here in such a bad. I mean, none of the artistic stuff for me either. Like I don't like its own little theme music. Like we said, I didn't mind how they used some of the other music, but I don't like its theme music. I don't like the roses stuff, the rose petals, which are all over the place. And I guess you gotta do something. It is sort of a bold and interesting scene when he, first starts to fixate on Angela and. It's like he's sitting alone in the stands. It's just he and her, and everything stops. I mean, people are going to debate about how tastefully that can be done. It's about a middle-aged man lusting after a teenage girl. It's like, so again, I appreciate there's some honesty there because so many movies would just skirt it. They're like, nope, we're not touching that. I appreciate the honesty in it because we all act again like everybody's so virtuous when we're not.
We're talking about 1999. I mean, it's a much different climate than we're at now. I feel like, this thing won Best Picture, so it's got lots of taboo. Even at its core, it's taboo. The guy fantasizing about a underage girl or whatever, inappropriate relationship, and then him masturbating all the time. And
well, that's the other thing I would say. I know we talked about masturbation on the shows before too, and in most movies, there's only 2 ways to show masturbation. One is like a funny sex comedy thing. Here's this funny pervert masturbating, right? The other way is always like, this person's messed up. Really. Usually when you have like masturbation scenes of like a main character in like a drama, it's not it's almost played like they're not normal. It's like, you know, they're gonna be crying while they're masturbating, or maybe they're masturbating after like at a really inappropriate time. Like, I don't know, like somebody dies and they're crying and masturbating. Like they never show masturbating as just a normal, healthy thing that a lot of people do, right? This movie actually does do that, and I applaud that because that's usually what it is. It's either here's this horny weirdo in our sex comedy, like of course he's masturbating. He's a goddamn pervert. That's what you know, that's what perverts do. They masturbate all the time. I'm trying to think, like a few years ago, speaking of Del Toro, The Shape of Water, which has the main character masturbating, which is kind of interesting because it says like, oh, okay, yeah, because she's our main character and she's a little weird, but it's a sort of a positive thing. Then I realized, oh wait, she masturbates in the tub, so it's just more about how she likes getting off in the water. It's really more what they're trying to say than anything else. Yeah. But yeah, usually movies, if they're going to have masturbation, there's no middle ground. It's not like something that just normal people do because they feel like it. There's always either some silly perverted reason or some kind of pathetic or disturbing reason. You know, like what was their big ad to the Psycho remake? It's like, well, why don't we actually show him masturbating? You know, remember when he's spying on Anne Heche through the thing? Like, it's implied. Well, it's implied in the original. In the remake with Vince Vaughn, they actually show, okay, he is.
I don't. Like,
I get
it's not needed. It's not needed to. Fuck it. We could talk about the Psycho remake for.
It's a very bad remake. Although I do miss Vince Vaughn just doing serious roles because I don't think Vince Vaughn is football, and I hate.
I think Vince Vaughn's great. I think Gus Van Sant's great. And Anne Heche is great, but that movie is not
a bland '90s remake of one of the greatest movies of all time.
Which I did have a VHS copy of that. I think I may have thrown it away. It's when your family knows you like horror movies, they're like, oh, we found this. We've got the Godzilla 1998, and we got you the Psycho remake on VHS. Oh man, thank you.
Began as a play, like that's how it was originally written, but it never got like staged, and it was it was changed around into like a script. So then it was changed into like a movie script. And so we were shopping it around. While developing the script, Ball created another television sitcom, I'll Grow Up. That Chandler's anger and frustration having to accede to network demands on that show. After during his 10 years on Grace Under Fire and Sybil, I have heard of such shows, into writing American Beauty. He did not expect to sell the script, but got some interest. Passed the script to several producers who took it to DreamWorks. Again, Spielberg had to read. Ball was convinced to develop the project at DreamWorks. He received assurances from the studio, known at the time for its more conventional fare, that would not iron the edges out. In an unusual mood, DreamWorks decided not to option the script. Okay, blah, blah, blah. There's a thing here about, Ball was not. Some of the directors were interested were considered A-list, and Ball was not keen on the more well-known directors because he believed their involvement would increase the budget and lead DreamWorks to become nervous about the content, which I do think is a real thing that still happens, right? It's like, it's one thing if you have a movie like with a director that's maybe not too well-known or established yet, because the studio won't pay as much attention to it. But if you have somebody well-known in A-list, a big name, the studio is going to be all over it. And if there is content to be nervous about it, they're going to find it, and then they're going to start messing with it. So I do see where he's coming from there of wanting maybe a lesser known director because he thinks that they might mess with it given the content.
He did Grace Under Fire and then Sybil.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mendes went with Spielberg, impressed by Mendes' productions of Oliver and Cabaret. Spielberg encouraged him to consider American Beauty. So they convinced DreamWorks to actually let him direct because he hadn't directed the film yet. Blah, 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 blah.
Well,
meetings.
He created 6 Feet Under, which I had not seen that, but it has been on my list for quite a while.
Or the writer, you mean Ball?
Alan Ball.
Yeah, that was one of those turning point type shows at the end. There's like there's that and like Sopranos, right? There was the ones that really started to change.
Yeah.
Today with event sort of TV shows with their strong content and stuff.
Well, that's where we are now. The money's not
Yeah.
in movies; it's in shows. Like, make that shit 3 fucking seasons. That's how they look at it now.
Very
It's
much
all
so.
too watered down, man. It's too much. I don't have time for, I don't want to wait 12 hours for any kind of closure, even though you may do another season when they get no closure,
Here's some stuff just about the writing change. We'll flip over it. Amy Fisher trial.
That's another show.
Oh,
Jacob, I have not seen that.
Oh, okay. I remember the Amy Fisher thing. You remember the Amy Fisher thing?
Just what happened with her?
Yeah.
Yeah, she killed Joey Buttafuoco's wife.
Yeah. Okay. You even knew the guy's name. Yeah. I wouldn't remember the wife, but yeah, because she was having an affair. Apparently had some influence on there. Discovering a comic book telling of the scandal. What comic book talked about the Amy Fisher trial? What the fuck does that mean? He said it felt like there was more story underneath. It was more fascinating, more tragic than the story presented to the public, which we attempted to make into a play. Work better as film, visual, blah blah blah. All the main characters appear in this version, but Carol. Guys. All based Lester's story on aspects of his own life. Lester's re-examination of his life parallels feelings, passions to working jobs he hated for people he did not respect. Scenes in Ricky's household reflect Ball's own childhood experiences. Ball suspected his father was homosexual and used the idea to create Colonel Fitz, a man who gave up his chance to be himself. Ball said the script's mix of comedy and drama was not intentional, but he came unconsciously from his own outlook on life. He said the juxtaposition produced a starker contrast, giving each trait more. As you said, I appreciate comedies that do that. I don't find anything funny in this movie. I can't think of anything I think funny. I can recognize where it's supposed to be funny. I don't mean that. I get what's supposed to be funny, particularly a lot of his annoying, snarky narration. Or just when he's fighting with his wife. He's like, that's right, I jerked off. And then he has a few more euphemisms for it. Or where he talks about the stupid fucks he works for and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not really funny. It's just a guy cursing. But anyway. So, sometimes people think it's funny just if somebody starts cursing. But.
Yeah, children think that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess idiots.
But yeah, no, I don't find any of the movie funny at all. But I recognize where it's supposed to be funny. But I can't think of one moment I thought was even slightly funny where I was like, oh, that's funny. I mean, like I said, I guess her sex yelling is kind of funny, but I mean, that's done in a lot of movies. It's not too special.
Yeah.
She's with that guy. And he's like, what's it like to get nailed by the king? You like get nailed by the king? And she's like, oh, your majesty, or some bullshit like that. And
fuck me, your majesty.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But sex yelling in a lot of movies. This is great too. This is the part about wait a second. About the talking about death and beauty. Ricky and Jane talk about death and beauty. The shooting script features a scene in Angela's car in which Rick and Jane talk about death and beauty. The scene differed from earlier versions. As the production was behind schedule and needed to cut costs. The schedule called for 2 days to be spent filming the crash, and only half a day was available. Ball agreed, but only if the scene could retain a line of Ricky's where he reflects on having once seen a dead homeless woman. You see something like that, it's like God is looking right at you. Just for a second. If you're careful, you can look right back. Jane asks, and what do you see? Ricky, beauty. I remember that. Ball said they wanted to cut that scene. They said it's not important. I said, you're out of your fucking mind. What's the most important scenes in the movie? See, I get why it's one of the most important scenes in the movie, but I also think it sucks. So,
Yeah.
Ball's not wrong. If you cut that scene, it takes something out of the movie, but I also think it's stupid. So I don't care. So I don't know.
Well, it is stupid. And the way it was, pandered for years and years and years makes it look even more stupid looking back on it. But
I don't know when you put that in, Jake, but we're once again in total agreement on the alien stuff. I have the same feeling.
Yeah, it's sore subject for me because I love the concept, love the comics. The movies aren't that great. I mean, aside from those you listed, and the game. Have you ever played that game?
I played that game like 3-4 times over the years. I never get tired of playing. Every few years, I play it again because it's such a great experience.
It's so scary, man. I have to turn it off.
And I was
I can't
always,
handle it.
it's one of the few games I was really good at. Like, I died very little in that game. The very first time I played that game, it took forever for me to die. I had a lot of luck my first time through that game. Like, my hiding actually paid off a bunch. But the first time I played the game, I had more trouble with the androids than the aliens. Like, I didn't realize that how the androids work. Like, I found out later, if you walk briskly and keep going, they don't follow you that far usually. For a while, I didn't know that, so I was like stuck in areas where I'm like, I'm surrounded by androids. What the fuck do I do? Not realizing that like I could just motor past them in some situations. So my first time through the game, I actually had a lot of problems with the androids more so than the alien. But yeah, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, that is a good scene, Jacob, by the way. But it's more of like a wet dream for someone stuck in a fucking dead end job.
Right, and it's another thing they did in Fight Club, right? In Fight Club, he just beats the shit out of himself in the office. He's like, "Oh man, the boss attacked me," so then he gets to walk out with all the stuff he needs. It's another thing. It's like I'm blackmailing them and getting away with what I want.
Fuck the man.
Again, popped up in so many 1999 movies from around that era. But yeah, fuck the man. And again, I'm not against that. I really like it when they say it in Empire Records, where Lucas is like, "Damn the man." I did a live commentary that a few years ago. Nobody watched it, but if anybody cares, it's on there because I love that movie.
What is it? Rex Manning Day? Was that the?
Yes.
Whenever that comes around, you always see it on social media. Someone's.
It's sometime in April.
about
I remember that much. It's sometime in April. Oh, Rex USS. I love that movie. I was gonna make like a list of movies that epitomize the 90s. That's it doesn't epitomize the 90s if you're like black or whatever. It's pretty good if you're like somebody like me, like with music and stuff. But anyway, love that. Damn the man.
Very, very much from its time. Yeah, sorry, Albert. We're not actually talking a whole lot about the movie for you, but yeah, we're
well, we did before
kind of all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
2 hours in now. But, we went into it before, although it wasn't as focused or struck myself. Like I said, I can't be objective about this movie as part of the problem. So I'm just like, here's another thing that pisses me off. So I realize that's not. This is of other movies, but maybe not this one, because this one's always really annoyed me. But oh yeah, I've seen The Company of Men. That's a harsh movie. Do you see that one? That's Aaron Eckhart, right, Jake? You would be interested, Jay. You would be interested. It's basically like sociopaths taking advantage of a woman. It's pretty harsh. I think she's deaf too. I'm trying to remember.
Oh gosh.
It's basically Aaron Eckhart and this guy, like, I don't know, like ruining this woman just because they can, kind of thing. Especially Aaron Eckhart. He's so evil in it. It's crazy. Aaron Eckhart's not afraid to go there. Do you see Towelhead, Jacob? Speaking of Aaron Eckhart.
Huh. I'll have to check this one out.
It's interesting. We did Marathon Man. That movie's had Conrad Hall, who passed away in 2003, the cinematographer, who was the cinematographer for this movie, and Road to Perdition as well. It's interesting. He did the In Cold Blood. I was at the bookstore today buying, doing last minute Christmas shopping, and I bought somebody a book. But I bought a new copy of In Cold Blood for myself because my old copy, I don't even know what happened to it. So that's kind of funny. But anyway, the 1967 film adaptation, In Cold Blood, Conrad Hall was the cinematographer. He was the cinematographer for this movie. The cinematography is fine for this movie. I mean, it tries to be creative with what is. He's dealing with suburbia. There's not too many interesting environments or anything like that, and I know that's the point. So they do what they can.
In Cold Blood, is that Truman Capote?
Yeah, it's the Truman Capote, the first true crime novel, right? Sort of a change for.
Yeah, I've never read it. I
Identical.
only know the title and the Philip Seymour Hoffman portrayal.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it weird that like that was like was that the same year? I remember they did oh shit, what was it Capote? So they did Capote, but it wasn't the same year they did another movie, and well, Philip Seymour Hoffman played Capote in that one, but in the other movie it was that little guy. He's in Toby Jones? I think it's Toby Jones. And that one had I like the other one better. I like Capote better. I can't remember the name of the other one, but the one with I think it's Toby Jones and
I'm not sure.
Daniel Craig actually played one of the two criminals. The main difference between those movies is in that they really play up the sort of rumor that like Capote and that guy kind of, I don't want to say fell in love, but they had kind of a semi-romantic vibe going on that was kind of like, messing things up. They play that up in the other one. I can't remember his title though. So yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
the reveal. I have already kind of ruined it on you, Jay. But the sort of the reveal at the end of that movie that Jacob was bringing up in The Company of Men is pretty devastating.
Oh, I'll probably forget. I'm gonna try to watch it soon though. I've such a laundry list of movies to watch.
Oh, so do I. Especially a lot of foreign ones. Like I still I was reading some stuff about some war stuff the other day. And I was like, I still haven't seen Come and See. You want to see that? Speaking of really bleak movies, one of the bleakest movies ever. Why not? That's a fun time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know I'm just sort of grasping when I was talking with the cinematographer there, so I suppose we can wrap up. And all I can think of is just reiterate and say the points I already made before. Like, I get what it's going for. It's themes, it's stuff about the traditional family, it's stuff about keeping up appearances and sort of the vapid emptiness and consumerism and stuff in suburban America and people playing roles and the darkness underneath. I get all that. I just think I've seen it done better in other movies, including movies that aren't even particularly good, like The Quiet. Like, I'm not saying The Quiet's a good movie; it is kind of trashy, but I enjoy it a hell of a lot more than I enjoy this movie. I was just annoyed by this movie's success and impact on pop culture. As I said, it's been over 20 years now, so that's faded. So I can't hate it the way I used to, but it still really pisses me off. I certainly didn't enjoy watching again, but it's not the worst thing. We got a show out of it.
Picking his brain on why he hates it.
Yeah, I mean that was really your impetus. Because ever since, like I said, back like 9 years ago when I dropped the bomb on the Sausage Factory, how much I hated this movie, I think you're like, I want to hear about that. So you always suggested right from the beginning of doing this show that we should do American Beauty sometime. I was like, I don't want to do it.
Only because on that show, no one wanted any elaboration besides me, and I wanted to know why.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. There's not much I can say, like, because there's a lot of stuff like that people like about the movie that just doesn't work for me. As I said, one of the hardest things about criticizing a film for me is when you say it's pretentious. Because as I said, I find the movie empty, vapid. It doesn't make good points and pretentious. But I also realize there are plenty of movies that I think are really cool that lots of other people will be like, I think that's way more pretentious. And I can't tell you you're wrong. People have different ideas of what makes something pretentious. But this movie would be right up there on the list of pretentious. And I don't mind a pretentious movie if it falls on its face, but this is a pretentious movie that most people are like, yes. Jake, I'm sure you saw our Shadow of a Doubt show. I think you were around back then. Because that was one I pushed for, because that's one of my favorite Hitchcock movies. I love Shadow of a Doubt.
We've talked about Blue Velvet before. I think it's a little on the nose, and I don't particularly like that movie all that much. It's one of my favorites of Lynch, but I'm not a big Lynch fan.
But yeah, I mean, just like most odd things in it that feel forced to me. But I don't know. I like how David Lynch fans, particularly Twin Peaks. Like I remember him once talking about like that movie, these aesthetics that he likes to put into things, which obviously he does. But he's like, no, it doesn't. Just because you give it an aesthetic from a different decade from something when it came out does not give it a timeless feel. Not to me, anyway.
I think David Lynch is a
weird show that came out in 1990, but people dressed like it was the 50s. It's still 1990.
I think David Lynch is a very talented guy. I think that he takes pleasure out of trolling his own fans.
Oh yeah,
and that's
because
that's
they all
kind of
think everything is full of meaning.
it pisses me off. But I mean, not what he does, just that people think, oh, this guy's sweeping peanuts off the floor for a straight 10 minutes. Oh, it's beautiful. It says so much. He's doing it so you'll say some shit like that and find some deep meaning in what he's doing.
We did cover my favorite movie by him on this, which is Mulholland Drive.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
There's an episode up here. Yeah, it's his favorite too. Yeah, so we did do Mulholland Drive, which we have mostly positive things to say about. I think it's a cool movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm kind of talking about.
That was originally supposed to be a show.
Yeah,
supposed to show, and then got. So if anyone has interest in that, you can see it.
Cool. We'll try to be a little more regular for you guys and try to get a show out every week, preferably on Tuesday, but can't make any promises. We'll do our best.
It was really important for me to do this. I mean, it was a busy day and get people busy, but I really wanted to get this one done to let people know that we are serious about consistency, because we done what was this our fourth or just our third
in a row? Well, we missed last week.
Well, yeah, we missed last week, but I mean, how many have we done since coming back? We did
maybe 4. You may be right.
I can't believe 4. I can't believe how bad my memory is. Like all I can think is, we did Brazil, and there's something before Metropolis. Just 3.
Just 3. Okay.
Yeah. Earlier,
cool.
writer I kind of got into like how much I am annoyed by melodrama in general. I guess I can accept melodrama in other contexts. It's not like it's always bad, but I'm usually not a fan of it, I guess.
This is really more of me wanting to torture Cole to watch it again than anything, but I think it's a fine movie. It's nothing great. It's not. I mean, it should not have won the awards it won. I think it's watchable. It's an easy watch, very very palatable in my opinion.
Well, I guess I don't mind, because at least I can explain some other reasons, because maybe they're not the ones that maybe some people think. Because I'm aware of other people that have issues with the movie and don't like it, but they don't have the same issues I do. Like I don't dislike the characters too much, except for Ricky. I really dislike Ricky. The rest of the characters I'm mostly indifferent to. Like I don't like or dislike them. So it's not that, except for Ricky. I really do hate Ricky. But and I've also had. I'm trying to think what other people said. I guess it doesn't matter, but just me. Yeah. So some of my reasons I don't think are exactly the same. So, like I said, a lot of people I think are really hard on the Lester character and judgmental. Whereas actually, I think it's kind of refreshing some of the honesty they portray him with. I think he goes a little too far. Like I said, I could do without his annoying voiceovers that I think are kind of over the top. But anyway, I mean, I have to say it's not an easy watch for me. It's not. It's a grating watch. I'm definitely not watching it again for maybe another 20 years. I don't know. It's not an easy watch. The only thing I can really appreciate about watching it is some of the aesthetics that do remind me of like 1999, I guess. I suppose. It is. And again, I don't want to be all pretentious and high and mighty about it, because I like other lesser dramatic forms too. Like, as I said, I like mindless action movies. They're not high art or literature or anything of the thing, but I like them. So I guess that's another thing that's always tough when we talk about is like different standards you can hold movies to. Like, there's no reason to like watch like I don't know a straight to video action movie and then like hold it to the same standard as you would something like this. Like, why would you do that? It's not made with those things in mind or that goal or that audience or anything like that. So I think you do have to have different mindsets, you know, coming into different movies, period. You can't just do straight one-on-one comparisons. It's kind of stupid to do that. When I brought up other movies on this show, I tried to do ones that I thought were comparable in at least some ways to this movie, like The Quiet. Because I could just be like, RoboCop 2 is way better than this movie. I mean, whoa, what is there really to say about that? You know. So anyway, thanks a lot. I'm surprised we got a pretty good crowd for a show that we didn't give too much notice for, but hopefully it isn't too bad. When I'm down here, like I said, over the Christmas holidays, and once again my parents' house, the connection's not great here, so hopefully it didn't mess up too much or anything like that. It's hard to tell on my end. It seemed mostly okay. I know I blipped out a couple times, but it wasn't that bad. So hopefully that's all right.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll do our best to see you next week.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe we can do like a live commentary Payback pretty soon too. So check that out. Probably on Jay's channel. Stay tuned. All right. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, etc.
Absolutely. See ya.